Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you want to be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Well, happy hump day to my beautiful coffee beans, hitting it off at the top of the hour. Good morning, wake up. It's time to get some information before you head off to work. Come on in, we got some breaking news information.
One step at a time, yeah, that's how you make it. Set a goal you control and the steps you take them. I try to pick one thought, have some concentration, and if I make a mistake, it's called education. I try to do this every day, call it replication. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 So life ain't easy, yo, I think there's a reason though. Ups and downs, just like every different season, yo. Sometimes I'm high, other times I'm barely breathing, though. I always gotta fight and hide from the demons, yo. Negative thoughts are poison, they rot. Head full of flies, so here come the clouds. They'll never stop unless I can swap all the bad for the good in my head when I'm lost. Yeah, so I'ma fake it till I make it. Positive thoughts are overtaken, I got patience. One day at a time is how you operate a cadence. A flow, you grow, you show yourself a foundation. Stay away from all the shit that causes temptation. I know that I like to do it cause it's sensation. I live my life in my head like a narration. Don't expect greatness, do my best, man, I'll take it. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. 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 Wake up, today's gonna be a good day.
Wake up, really gonna rise in the sun. Step 2, get some good, some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
As you wake up in the morning, you want to find the latest, greatest information about criminal cases and have an intuitive conversation about the suspects associated with these cases. Head over to the Bullhorn Betty channel on YouTube. Get breaking news right here on the Bullhorn Betty channel. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty Coffee Club. Enjoy your stay and enjoy your day.
Good morning, all of my coffee beans. Come on in. We've got quite the conversation this morning. Club. It's nice to see you. Is that Big Mac Mike? Is that Big Mac Mike? Hopefully it's Big Mac Mike. I can never tell because they've changed the names on here so many times, and I know you use 2 accounts. It's nice to see you. It's nice to see you. Good morning. We are starting very early. Why? Because I'm having problems sleeping lately, okay? That is all there is to it. And it sucks. And it sucks. I'm going to bed way too early, getting up way too early. My whole entire sleep cycle is screwed up. I don't know where it's getting screwed up from, but it's completely, utterly screwed up. So long story short, we didn't do our evening show. We're here ridiculously early this morning to go over what we should have went over last night. Scrutiny. We know about the recall of Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos. We have a lot to go over in this segment. We're going to be talking about the blood inside the home, not on the outside. We've already seen the outside of the home. We already know where it is, but we have a different perspective thanks to Ashley Banfield. But, it sounds like she might be walking some stuff back about those entry points on the back since our segment related to potentially the front entry point through the sliding glass doors. It really does make sense. You know, we need to find out the layout of, we have the layout of the home. We know, but we don't have the interior walls of the home. So we don't know what is the great room or the living room or the formal dining room or the kitchen or the other bedrooms or where the bathrooms are situated. We kind of have an outline of the home. And it has provided us enough to peek in a little bit to try to understand what could have happened there at Nancy's house that morning. And we apply some of the statements that Christopher Nanos has made, and it's kind of leaning us toward this sliding glass door that enters Miss Guthrie's room, her own bedroom. Remember, her daughter saying she was ripped out of her bed. She was taken. She was attacked in her bed. So this kind of really is starting to provide us a little more insight on what could have happened or how Nancy Guthrie most likely was attacked. So it sounds like she's at least acknowledging that there's a possibility of the back doors not being utilized here. So I think this is a good step forward. I think we're all starting to realize that, you know, maybe our perceptions might be a little different, but I think she also tells on herself a little bit, and we're going to go over that as well. But we've got 2 topics this morning. It's going to be the blood trail on the inside of the house, and of course the most recent scrutiny of the sheriff. He is not getting wild reviews from the community at large. It sounds like the community is standing up. By the way, to the Pima County community, this is what we look for. You know, we're not telling you how to vote or what to say or who to say or whatever the case may be. We're just asking normal Joes to stand up and speak up when they see something terribly wrong. This could have been your family. This could be your grandmother. This could be your life right now. It's not. It's Savannah's. But I will tell you this. Had it been any other community member, you would not have gotten this level of service. I will tell you that. And that should scare you guys. This happened to the Guthries, okay? They had all the stops. They had a direct connect to the president, which funneled a lot of resources into this area. I can tell you the rest of you guys don't have it like that. And that may piss you off, and I get it, and I want you guys to be pissed off because I want you to do better for yourself. I want you to realize you don't have it like that. You need to have a good sheriff. And I'm very, very thankful that you got some balls. We got balls and backbones in Pima County, Tennessee, and that's what we like. We still have lap cats over in Sumner County. I would have loved to see people in Sumner County stand up just like these people in Pima County did. You know, but this is the difference, and this is the mentality of people in that think that they've got it going on like they do in Sumner County. You guys need to wake up and realize when you have a terrible sheriff, it's up to you to get yourself out of the mess. If you keep drilling your head into the sand, when it comes knocking on your door, which it will eventually come knocking on your door, what are you going to do then? It's too late. If you don't believe me, ask Seth Rogers. By the time you realize you have a terrible sheriff, it's already too late. Ask the Guthries. So when we come out here, we're not your mainstream media, so we don't have any reason to lie to you. We're social media. We kind of talk about people. We just throw everything on the table. We have our purpose, at least for me, I can't speak for every content creator out here, but for my purpose is to inform, to truly inform the people, right? To cut through all the BS and to inform the people. And when we're out here saying, you've got a terrible sheriff, this is not hyperbole. This is not, we got our feelings. I mean, I guess some people, we have seen somebody on these platforms have get their feelings hurt and then be a complete dick in a case, the Sebastian Rogers case, nonetheless. But at the end of the day, we just expect, I guess what I'm trying to say is we just expect people to understand that it may not be affecting you today, but it might affect you tomorrow. So you shouldn't let it get to you. You should be standing up and speaking up today, not waiting until something bad happens to you or your family and then realizing everything everybody's been saying is true. That's what happened to the Guthries. That's what happened to this community. Everything that everybody has said about Pima County Sheriff being a bully, being an a-hole, all these things that they were saying, everybody just thought it was politics and kept voting this piece of garbage back into office. And now this has gotten so big. Now, mind you, he was supposed to be indicted by the feds. And this is most recent, which is what caused the problem between Chris Nanos and the feds to begin with. Okay? And then we find out for 40 years he's been lying to everybody about his history because he's a violent SOB. He's a violent bully that has no business to have a badge or a gun. He should have been fired 40 years ago. It was a clerical error, folks. It was a freaking clerical error. A clerical error. So the clerical error has been found. It has been resolved. And we do know what kind of sheriff we are looking at this day and age. And he's not very good. And we keep hearing from people that work under him. We keep hearing, ooh, that reminds me. I forgot about that one. Dad, burn it. Hold on a second. We got another story that I'm supposed to go over. I promised you guys we'd go over, and this is the guy. I cannot believe I forgot about this. Let me go through my history real quick. I watched it. I cannot believe I forgot to pull it up in this segment because we're going over the scrutiny. I pulled up a lot of stuff, but I forgot this one video, and we need this video because this video is of Pima County Sheriff, his boss, his prior boss. Where is it? Was from yesterday. It was from the day before yesterday. I was going to talk about it yesterday, and I'm like, nah, that's going to be our evening show. Remember our evening show? And I fell asleep. I'm so bad. Don't mind me. Officials focus on January 11th. Where is it? It's Brian Enton. I think it was Brian Enton. It might have been News Nation. Let me see here. Nope, it's right. Former boss. There it is. There it is. Hey guys, I love Brian Enton. He's such a good guy. If we could just, if we could clone Brian Enton, I think we would be good. Let me see if this works out well. Scrutiny. Okay, yes, it does. And then it goes to the boss. Okay. All right, guys, before we get started, I'm going to say good morning to you. We have two minor cases, updates. One is of the quadruple homicide suspect, Austin Drummond, update on his case. Plus we have, this is a rare case that we see, and kudos to them. This is what I love about people. There's just still some good people out in this world. There are just some good people out in this world that you just cannot buy. You just can't buy them. I love people like, you can't buy me. There's not an amount of money in this world that could buy me or my loyalty. I either have it for you or I don't. But it's very rare. It's almost disgusting how rare it is. It should be more. People shouldn't be able to be bought off. I mean, it's just stupidity. Money is the root of all evils. But anyways, it's just good-hearted people that you hear from. And did it really move the needle? Maybe not. Maybe not. But damn, the story's good. The story makes you say, hell yeah, girl, you get it. You get it, right? And this is somebody that was approached and offered $26 million. $26 million for a sliver of land. for a sliver of land. And you know what they said? They said, hell to the nah, nah, nah. Why? Why did they say it? Because they've been feeding a nation for almost its inception. They've used their land to feed all of us. They've used their land to grow this country. They love the legacy. They love it's their land. They've had generations born on that land. They have a house built by the hands. Because back in the day, when you had a house, you had to build it. You didn't have somebody to call, say, hey, can you come build my home? Okay? Back in the day, when you were settling, you built your own house. There were no permits. There were no inspectors coming around saying, you're not up to code, right? You built your own house. You lived on your own land. You farmed your own land. You fed your family. No government was sitting out here with their hand out for every little penny you make like we got now. People could live. You either sank or you swam. You see what I'm saying? People struggled. But you know what that struggle gave people, what people are not dealing with this day and age because they don't struggle? Real life experience. Real struggles give you a different perspective. It softens you up a little for other people. Too many times we take the struggle away from American citizens when we should be letting them shoulder those struggles. Life's about growth. You don't grow unless you're uncomfortable. So this is just a beautiful story. It's a beautiful story of a family turning down $26 million. And the reason they turn... And I can tell you, people that farm, they struggle. They struggle to do what they do. But they have a love for it. Just remember that. Our farmlands are disappearing, folks. And we need to think about this highly because what happens when we can't feed our nation? We're dependent on another nation to feed us, to give us our sustainability, to sustain life. Do you guys want to be, I'm asking everybody, do you guys really want to be dependent on another country to feed us? We might want to really start considering preserving some of this farmland. So I thought that was interesting. Like, you know, these folks, they don't trust the city slickers. They just don't. And it's been in the Hackfields and McCoys. Country folk don't trust city slickers. They just don't. Makes you wonder what they plan on doing because some of these companies are ruthless. Absolutely ruthless. So this is Austin Drummond. He's a quadruple homicide suspect. He's been in prison since he was a kid. This case is so bizarre. If you guys were not watching it at the beginning, you're not even going to believe the stuff he was able to do behind prison. I mean, some of you guys can think of it, but he was able to have a firearm there. He had a TV. He had Roku. He had freaking delivery of restaurants to his cell. Now you're asking how the hell can he do this? Obviously, a lot of inside help. Okay. He was dating a woman that was working there. They ended up getting together after he was released. Now he should have never been released. He had an attempted homicide charge from a firearm and contraband into a penal facility before he was released from prison after doing, I think, a 10-year stint in prison. And so he had only been out for less than a year, and then he kills his pregnant girlfriend's family. Her sister, her niece, her nephew, and her niece's fiance abducting their baby and dropping the baby off at some weird person's house they've never met before in the car seat. It was just a crazy case. This is happening out in Tennessee. Well, he was actually moved to a prison versus the county jail because he was going buck crazy in the county jail waiting for this trial and spreading feces all over his walls and just really got tormented and demented when it came to Austin Drummond. So now he's being forced to stay at the state prison, which has more control over his behavior while he awaits trial. And this is one of the court cases that he went. Now, it sounds to me like the majority of his co-defendants have already made plea deals. I don't know what those plea deals are, but most of them have already made plea deals, and I'm pretty sure their plea deals require them testifying against Austin Drummond. So Austin Drummond in a lot of deep doo-doo. He has been in jail since, from everything I can say, he was in and out of jail since 12 years old. This man will never see the light of day again. He ruined his childhood, he ruined his adulthood, and he ruined his unborn child, which probably is now born's entire life, including the woman he impregnated, by killing her sister and family, nieces and nephews. This guy is nuts and should have never, this is another one that should have never been released from prison. He had an attempted homicide and contraband into a penal facility, waiting, like still in the queue for prosecution when they released this animal back out into the wild with the rest of us. And 4 people lost their life orphaning a baby. So I wanted you guys to see this particular case. This is an update from information that we've already covered. We covered this case once before. I'm glad to see that smug look on his face, the look of complete, utter defeat. This man is a monster.
One man accused of a quadruple murder appears in court seeking a change of venue and other pretrial motions.
WBBJ 7 Eyewitness News reporter Ashlyn Swinia takes us inside the courtroom.
Austin Drummond is currently accused of a quadruple homicide. The victims of the homicide were Courtney Rose, Adriana Williams, Braden Williams, and James Wilson.
Today, he was back in Lake County Circuit Court, and there are many motions on the table. Among them, a possible change of venue, a mental evaluation order, and restrictions on how Drummond can access discovery documents. Brian Huffman is Drummond's defense attorney, and he says the case is now about to pick up speed.
A lot of work. Yeah, it's been slow because, again, we're getting all the discovery, and just going through the discovery just takes time. Now that we've got a lot of the discovery, things are going to start moving a lot faster.
Huffman says he's also had difficulty relaying discovery to Drummond as he is currently being held at Riverbend Maximum Security Institution while being segregated from other inmates.
It's very difficult because a lot of the discovery is video. There's a lot of paper discovery as well, so we cannot pass that to him. We can only show him the video through the glass. So it's difficult to meet with him in person.
The restriction for Drummond to receive the copies of discovery will be taken up on May 1st. However, Judge Mark Hayes cites concern of the documents ending up on social media.
Well, it's normally not a problem, but it became a problem in this case.
So they're concerned about social media. These discovery documents, he can put them under seal if he so chooses. I mean, judges do have discretion to work with this. And I'm sorry, but at the end of the day, a defendant is entitled to help defend himself. I truly don't. I think that if the judge continues to rule this way, I think this is going to create an appeal. Period. Because every defendant has a right and a duty and a constitutional right to engage in their defense. As a matter of fact, many people that are too messed up to engage in their own defense, their cases are tabled indefinitely until they go to a psych ward and are properly rehabilitated and brought back. Look at the case of Gannon, or what was it? Not Gannon Stout. What was the Cash Gernon? Look at the Cash Gernon case. That guy went to a mental institute for, 4 or 5 years before they were finally able to prosecute him for the homicide of Cash Gernon. So these are very, very, and it's because he could not help aid in his own defense. That was the requirement. That's why they had to stop the proceedings. He was too mentally incapacitated to assist. This is a little different. He's not too mentally incapacitated to go through his discovery and go through his defense, but they're saying they're concerned about stuff being leaked to the public. There's ways to go around that. There's ways to handle that. But it requires belly-to-belly contact. Okay, it requires that the defense attorney go in there and speak to him and make sure all of the documents are handed back to that defense attorney to take with him, so nothing is left there for Drummond. They're not going to be able to. I guess they could gag him, but now you're going to have constitutional issues. So, no matter how we look at this defendant is entitled to certain things, and I don't think preventing him from being able to aid in his own defense and making it 10 times more difficult in such a high profile case, I think would be an appealable issue. And one of the things that we try to do is to not create appealable issues, because we never know what an appeals court may decide, and he might get a new trial. So we've got to be very careful. The law has to be very specific. I don't know if they're going to be able to, they're going to have to be able to put some special regulations so he can be belly to belly with his attorney. That's my thought process on it, but I don't know how ultimately this judge will rule or what his discretion is, especially in sight of this guy being a complete bear to deal with and them having to send him to the prison because he wouldn't act right in the county jail waiting trial. So there are some disciplinary issues here, but I don't know how the Judge Mark Hayes, is going to handle these complicated issues. But at the end of the day, he has a right to aid in his own defense. And by them making it 10 times more difficult, I think it's going to create an issue on the back end of this, especially appealable wise. And if you guys know me, one of the biggest things that I'm all about is not making an appealable event for somebody. I like pit bulls for defense attorneys. I like them having the best of the best for the defense attorneys. And I say this all the time because I don't want them to be able to appeal. I don't want them having an opportunity for a new trial. I don't want them having an opportunity, a second bite at the apple. I want to be one and done. That's my thought on that. That has been my position for a very, very long time. And so I scrutinize judges and their decisions because I'm always constantly looking at the thing that is my worry box, and that is an appeal on these horrible cases. That means that somebody didn't do something right. So we want people to do things that are right. So good morning, everybody. I'm Bullhorn Betty. We're about to get into the case of Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old grandmother, mother of today's show co-host Savannah Guthrie. She was ripped from her home in the middle of the night by a masked gunman. It appears that this might be a concerted effort with multiple people, but I'm still back on the fence on that now. Even with the possibility of having the walkie-talkie in the pocket, is there a secondary person? Is there not? With the ability of this person being able to jump a fence and get right in, or jump a wall and get right into Nancy Guthrie's bedroom, it does show me that there is a possibility of this being a lone actor. Could a lone actor do all this? And the answer is yes, they could. I've looked over this. I've visualized it. I've walked through all of the possibilities. And yes, it does appear that there is the potential of having multiple people involved. But I also don't want to lose the fact that this case here, now that I see this house, now that I see where everything is positioned in this house and how this assailant may have entered into this house, I'm starting to realize that this could have been carried out by a single person versus multiple people. So I want to make sure that I point that out as well, because I feel like if we keep looking at it as a multiple person event and we find out it's not, we're going to be sorely mistaken, and we're going to be kind of upset and be in our back of our mind thinking there's somebody else out there. So I don't know what we're going to ultimately find when it comes to this case, but is it possible for a single person to carry out this case at this point? The answer is yes. Everything was on the front of the house, including Nancy Guthrie's own bedroom. That is, that makes things a lot easier, unfortunately. Libby, it's nice to see you. Sabrina, good morning. Thank you for all being here at the crack of dawn. Holy smokes, we're up early. Faye, it's nice to see you. Tap dancer Lizzie, good morning. Jamie, popcorn jurors, it's nice to have you. Our beautiful Mike, our handsome Mike. Don't want to call you beautiful if you're not a guy, or if you're not a girl. Sorry, Mike. I don't know if you're male or female, if you're a troll or not. I don't know. We still love you. Good morning, my friend. I'm just joking. We know you're not a troll. Oma, it's nice to see you. It doesn't have nothing to do with Arizona not practicing setting their clocks back or spring ahead. I don't know what that has to do with. I found out a lot about Arizona. You know what I remembered, though? When somebody was talking about the rain there, that's the part that made me hate Arizona. And when I was in Arizona, the other part was the rain. It was so bad I could barely see in front of me, and the crazy roads. Their roads are awful. I don't like your planning out there. And that I couldn't remember what specifically about Arizona I didn't like. And I'm like, I don't really hate the desert, but it's not my cup of tea, but it had nothing to do with the desert. It was the rain and the roads. That's what the roads were so confusing for me. They made me nervous. It gave me anxiety when I was there. And so I just thought that was the area I was in, which I believe was Glendale, Arizona. But I had to cross, through Tucson and all those other areas of Arizona because I was driving from Florida. And so on the way back, I had to go through Tucson as well. But in Arizona, in Glendale, I remember I had to go out and get something to eat. I was starving. I was in my hotel, I was all alone. I didn't have any food, and it started pouring down rain. And I remember when I got to my hotel, it was pouring down rain. Like I had to leave some of my stuff in the car. It was pouring down rain so bad. I couldn't get from my car to the hotel room without getting everything just completely drenched. And so I knew it wasn't going to happen. I had to wait until it kind of tapered off, and it didn't taper off. And I remember it wasn't until I was hearing about the washes, and it's like, you know what? I remember that. Because the streets, I'm like, what the hell is this? It looks like a freaking river. And I remember when I got my oil change at the dealership in Glensdale, I was asking them about the rain. They're like, oh, yeah, the rain gets really, really bad. And the roads turn into rivers. It's scary. It's scary. I remember that. That was the reason why. It took me a minute to realize. I remember I just didn't like the area, but I couldn't remember the reason. And then somebody was talking about the rain, and it popped in my head. And I remember all the rain. I was driving in it, and it was scary. Their roads are not designed for, I'm sorry. I feel like you guys got shortchanged in Arizona in your planning. People that did not know how to planned. And that's why you got those crazy roads in Arizona. And there's no way to fix it at this point. You guys are kind of stuck until they start revitalizing areas and knocking down and doing eminent domain to take some of the roads or take some of the properties and start building like real sectors. Like right now, you don't have sectors. You got areas that are like mazes. It's like, well, can we put something here? Sure, go ahead and sit it there. We'll figure it out. That type of stuff. Okay, we don't have that type of planning here and everything. Clutch Justin had a very good picture of the floor plan last night. Oh, did he? Oh, let me go over there. Clutch, YouTube.com. We'll get to it. I've got enough here to go over because it's Ashley Banfield. She's about as vocally gifted as me. Like she could talk. She can talk a lot. She can talk a lot. I could talk a lot. I could talk for days. If I'm on a topic of conversation that I'm well versed in, I could literally talk for days.
The search for Nancy Guthrie continues in Tucson. The 84-year-old vanished January 31st. She was reported missing the next day after she failed to show up for church. But nearly 2 months later, the case seems to be running cold. Much of the investigation has been under a microscope, and now there's a lot of focus on Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos over his handling of the investigation.
I don't want people thinking this is a cold case. They screwed up this case at the beginning, and I think, will they be able to recover from that to find the assailant? I don't know, because Chris Nanos made so many damn mistakes that he's acting like he doesn't have a problem with now, which is bull. Exactly why people are calling for his job, because he's just clueless. And he's intentionally clueless. He doesn't want to say he's a bad sheriff, right? So he's like, no, it's okay. It's okay. Yeah, it's just fine. We're good. We're good. Don't worry about it. Nothing to see over here. So the Nanos thing is starting to really get some real support behind it. It seems like the community's over it. I think the community's over it. This scares everybody. I kept wondering, because there are some bad apples in that community, that psycho lady that drives around there harassing people. She's going to get herself in trouble if she keeps doing that. I'll tell you that. You can't do that. And I heard that she may even have went in. Somebody was looking at a house, And I guess she thought it was some type of content creator, and it was a legitimate buyer. And she goes and reaches in her car and snatches her handicap sticker. I think it's the same woman. Like, this woman is completely unhinged. I could be wrong, but I heard officers out there, because somebody was looking at one of the houses out there. They were like, they have a realtor. The realtor just wasn't with them. They got permission to go on over and just look at the house. And this lady, not minding her own business, thinking she owns the damn place, went over there and started getting into this lady. Like, I would have had her arrested for robbery. Like, even if it's you touch anything of mine. I remember one time I was out in the Idaho front of the house of Idaho 4, 1188 King Road, or 1122 King Road, rather. And I remember there was this photographer for the New York Times. And, he saw me and Olivia there, and he thought we were soft targets. And he's like, if I got to get here and get a picture, you're going to have to move your stuff out of the way. And I'm like, excuse me? He goes, oh, I'll move it. I said, you touch me or my stuff? I said, you're going to jail. I said, you don't know me. Come over here and touch my shit. I double dog dare you, sir. I don't know if you know who I am, but I'm Bullhorn Betty, and I really don't put up with your shit. Have a great day. I can tell you, that man never moved my shit. That man never moved my shit. So people will come out here and they will do whatever. Like, they can be very unhinged, including other media. But we got a situation here where a woman took it upon herself to reach in somebody else's car. She should have been in jail. But I'm pretty sure the laws only apply to certain people in the area, not everybody. But I would have put her in jail.
And for resume discrepancies. Senior national correspondent Brian Enton joins us live. So, Brian, the department actually entered a nearly unanimous no confidence vote against the sheriff last month.
Yeah, that was a big moment. The Pima County Sheriff, Chris Nanos, he's really been under scrutiny for his handling of the Nancy Guthrie case since almost the beginning. It's now been 52 days since Nancy went missing. Still no arrests, still no solid leads or suspects that we know of. The Board of Supervisors has expressed frustration with the sheriff. They've got an item on their agenda today to discuss what they are calling recently reported issues concerning Sheriff Nanos' work history and apparent related false statements and related personnel, management, internal affairs investigations. And
Internal affairs investigation. So, mind you, back in the 80s, he beat a suspect so badly that he took a 15-day suspension, was almost indicted, and sent that man to the ICU. That's what Chris Nanos is. This man right here. Violent man. Very much of a bully. We're hearing that he bullies his officers. That's why so many decided to leave the force. He refuses to take direction. He's, in my opinion, if you want to, I bet you if he went to a mental health doctor, we'd find out he's a sociopath with underlying narcissistic tendencies. That's what I'm seeing in this man, and what is being described by others about this man. I don't know who he is, but there's definitely something superiority up here in his cranium when it comes to him. He absolutely lied about his history. He lied about his history, which would have prevented him from ever being an officer in Pima County to begin with, even back in the late 80s. So we got a lot of issues, and then he lied about his history at Pima County, El Paso, and then he further lied about his his years of service there. And I think he did that in order to cover up them looking at the disciplinary action of his history. So now we know what his history is. We now know he should have never been ever hired for Pima County, let alone becoming a sheriff or being on the ballot. But it was all ill-gotten means by deception. He's been deceiving people for 40 years about who he truly is, and people knew something wasn't right with him. But you know what? He can go out there and very skillfully manipulate people and thinking he's a good guy in the answer. And now we've got an 84-year-old grandmother that needed all the stops pulled for her, and this man put all the blocks in place to prevent her from being found. And I think everybody saw that happening, and he did it because of, and I think he did that because everybody was telling him not to do it. I think he's just that kind of guy where he was getting all this information from the professionals, but he wanted to do it his way. And he got a woman killed. He got a woman killed. He almost killed somebody with his bare hands. And now he did kill somebody. Now, he didn't violently kill her, but because of his lackadaisy approach to this whole position, if she left that house alive, he absolutely lost her life. Leadership and votes matter. It's life or death in some of these cases. It was life and death for Nancy Guthrie as well as her family.
The meeting is happening right now. I spoke with the former chief deputy who worked with Nanos for almost 40 years, who's now actually turned on him and claims that Nanos has not handled the Guthrie investigation properly and did not coordinate ground searches fast enough.
And it's because he was at a family barbecue and refused to leave. That's why he didn't know it was the Guthrie family until almost 7 o'clock at night, because nobody dare reach out to him on his day off. Why would somebody be terrified of reaching out to the sheriff on their day off? I wonder if somebody got fired or demoted because they did that. Because that's what this piece of shit does. And I'm going to call him that. Chris Nanos is a piece of shit. Okay? He lied to his public. He deceived his public for almost 40 years and was rewarded for it. He should lose his entire retirement over this, which he won't because he's a government official. And we have to pay for their mistakes. We have to pay for everything. And then we have to pay them for making the flipping mistake. This is getting sick. I'm so sick of this. Why are we on the hook for all these taxes? Why are we on the hook for his retirement? We should strip him of anything that we gave him and only give him back his money.
I believe some of the searches that began within a few days after the fact were reactionary and were pressured by public opinion.
We're not going to get into that just yet because we're going to see the whole interview here in just a moment. So I don't want to get too far into that just yet.
So this meeting in Pima County, it is ongoing right now. It's going to be interesting to see what comes of it because the sheriff is obviously elected, so they can't just vote to fire him. He's elected by the people. There is, however, this recall being organized where a special election could be held to try to vote him out. The sheriff, meanwhile, Sheriff Nanos, has said all along, really, that he handled the investigation the best way possible and that he stands by his decisions. Nicole?
All right, so...
Which, again... We're going to get into all of that. This is one of, I think this is the union president. The union president. And we're also going to see this in Banfield's, which she's coming. That's Brian Enton. Where's Banfield? Here she is. Where's my show for Banfield? The hell? Oh, oops, and I just accidentally got rid of that one. Where that's going next. Sorry, guys. Apparently, I didn't get my Banfield one up here, so we'll just watch this one.
Our next speaker is Aaron Cross.
Sorry, guys. I'll have to pull the
Good morning,
live
Board.
up, which is right here.
I'm Sergeant Aaron Cross, President of the Pima County Deputies Organization. As many know, a reporter recently uncovered the long-hidden, terrible record of Sheriff Chris Nanos from his time as an El Paso police officer. This includes purportedly beating a handcuffed suspect in the head with a flashlight, for which he was suspended and nearly indicted.
Okay, we're going to go back to the beginning of this. I just want to give a shout out to 857 Tucson before we get started on this, because I truly don't believe if 857 Tucson was not live streaming this, which is live streamed. Somebody could have went and pulled this, but I truly believe if this was not live streamed from 857 Tucson, the majority of our mainstream media would not have picked up on this. We have several people that had made reports based upon this, but this right here was being live streamed on one of the channels for 857 Tucson, and I believe that's what brought awareness to this for us to even have a talking point. That's how I learned about it. That's how I learned that this meeting was going on. I remember hearing about it, but the next morning, when I'm researching, out of sight, out of mind, I forgot about it until it came across my feed with 857 Tucson. 857. Is it 857? I think it's 857. I know it has to do with the area code.
Our next speaker is Aaron Cross.
Good morning, Board. I'm Sergeant Aaron Cross, President of the Pima County Deputies Organization. As many know, a reporter recently uncovered the long-hidden, terrible record of Sheriff Chris Nanos from his time as an El Paso police officer. This includes purportedly beating a handcuffed suspect in the head with a flashlight, for which he was suspended and nearly indicted. This record, if properly disclosed, would have likely prevented him from being hired or from becoming a peace officer in the state of Arizona. For over 40 years, this has been concealed from the department and the voters of Pima County. Because of this scandal, our organization, the largest union of deputies in Pima County, has taken a vote. We asked our members a clear question: confidence in Sheriff Nanos to continue in office, or no confidence and a call for his resignation. The verdict was unanimous: no confidence. He has lost the faith of his deputies and the community. His past renders him unfit to wear the badge. That he has concealed it for 40 years does not make the concealment right. It makes the fraud greater. The 300 deputies I represent speak with one voice. Chris Nanos must show the integrity he once swore to uphold. He must show the dignity that the office requires. He must resign. If he will not, then I ask this board, charged with oversight, to exercise every authority vested in you. The power of this board should be used, not for comfort, but for accountability. There are moments in the life of a community when those entrusted with authority must stand firm against those who abuse it. This is such a moment. We ask that this board have the courage to support Supervisor Hines' item. Pima County and the nation is watching. Thank you.
And to make the comment that was a good statement. To make the comment for you, Haley, I disagree with you because I've been watching the feeds and some of those neighbors these people aren't doing anything illegal. Okay. The neighbors don't own those roads. The neighbors don't own that property. The neighbors only own their home. Okay. And this goes for everybody out there. You guys need to understand your property rights. You do not own your community. Okay. You own the little sliver of land you purchase. That's it. Okay. So when I see people acting and engaging in proper conduct, that means that there's nothing illegal about them setting up shop and in covering a national interest story. Nothing illegal about it. There's nothing unlawful about it. There's nothing, they're following all the rules. And of course, Pima County is trying to make that more and more uncomfortable for them. But at the end of the day, they can't stop them. So they're not doing anything illegal. Yet somebody is stopping and harassing them for doing something that's not illegal. So if you ask me who the problem is, I don't care if the neighborhood is uncomfortable. They don't own those roads. They don't own people's bodies. They don't own people's mouths. They don't own people's equipment. They have no rights. If they're talking about people sticking their nose in, well, what the hell is the neighbor doing? Okay? Hypocritical at best. Hypocritical at best. So, if the neighbors don't want to be yelled at by people that are minding their own business, maybe they shouldn't be interjecting themselves in those people minding their own business. Whether they like it or not, it's not unlawful. So the only people harassing people are the neighbors. And there's no good excuse or justification for it. If you are so unhinged that you can't just drive by, that's a you problem, not a them problem. So let's not get it twisted. And, I understand that this is uncomfortable, but a lady was ripped out of her freaking bed by a masked gunman. At the end of the day, at least cameras are taking note of anybody that's coming into your community. I mean, for me, as a human being, if somebody had been ripped out of their home and they were my neighbor, I would appreciate having all cameras in that neighborhood, especially if the assailant is not behind bars yet. So, and besides that one or two neighbors that are causing all of these problems, it's only those one or two neighbors. As you can see, there's hundreds of neighbors in that community, and hundreds of people aren't feeling the same way. Or if they are feeling the same way, they're not harassing people. Only the unhinged basket cases are the ones out there harassing people minding their own business. Again, you don't want me out there. So, Haley, unfortunately, if I was out there and somebody did to me what I think the guys were being chill, but I would have given them a dose myself, because you have no right to sit here and harass me for doing my job. Whether you like my profession or not, I'm still within my rights to do it. And that's what people need to understand. And some people don't like that. And they don't like knowing they don't have control over a situation because they're control freaks. Okay? And when I see a woman that's so unhinged that she's reaching into some stranger's car to rip something out, well, that lady should be in jail. Okay? She needs to learn accountability for her own actions. So if that happens again, I would recommend you guys calling and pushing the law enforcement to arrest her so she can start getting accountability for her own actions. Just saying. Just saying. What's good for the goose is good for the gander. I know it's uncomfortable because I used to do that stuff. I still do it. I just couldn't get out there to this case, right? I would sit in front of that house. You guys have watched me sit in front of houses for 5 weeks. Okay? It's what I do. It's what content creator. It's not even what I do and what content creator. It's what news does. Okay? Where did we learn it? We learned it from the news organizations, did we not? So, anyways, I'm not going to keep harping on it. I understand the concern from everybody. I get it. So let's go ahead and get into the meat and potatoes of why we're here. Why didn't it open? I needed that to open. It did not open. There we go. And then we'll get into more of... I just want to say before we get started that we got more sources. Okay, we got more sources. I think she feels a little deflated over the back doors because I don't think the back doors were the entry point. I think she was all types of wrong, and I think she told on herself a little bit. So we're going to go through this. It's going to be a little different, but there is blood in the house, according to her source, which, in all fairness, seeing the blood dripping on the outside of the house. But what caused the blood to truly stop dripping? And this is where we're going to focus our conversation, because I know that we have such a wide general perception of this blood. And while we're talking about the scrutiny with Pima County Sheriff, and we're not really focused on the blood just yet, we're going to step back because I want you guys to hear this situation about the blood. And of course, we're going to get into, she also covers the Pima recall efforts and the statements that I just showed you. So we have some stuff here that I think is going to be very, very interesting, but the conversation related to the blood is going to take a slightly different, more dark turn for us on this segment. So let's go ahead and get started. And I'm just forewarning you folks.
It changes a few things. I have been mystified by what happened inside the house, right? We know that this crime happened sometime likely between 1:47 a.m. and 2:28 a.m. on February the 1st, Sunday. And as Sheriff Nanos explained, Nancy Guthrie had come home, put her garage door down, and presumably went to bed, as we probably all would do around that time. So this perpetrator likely got her out of her bed because Savannah Guthrie said, my mother disappeared, from her bed in the dark of night. So I've been wondering, was there a struggle? Was there something that happened in the bedroom? Was there a struggle out in the family room? Was there a struggle out in the front hall? The kitchen? Where did this crime take place? However long this scumbag was in her home.
And I got to tell you, I always stop it right at the worst. If you guys want to know what my gift is, what my true gift is in content creation, it's knowing right where to stop the film, right where to pause. It seems like no matter where I pause on these things, somebody has a funky face. I'm sorry, Ashley Banfield. This was not intentional. I promise you, this was not intentional. But with this being said, and her talking about the blood droplets and where all of this kind of transpired at, we're making some fairly significant leaps in that front on this channel. It is my position they never went into the backyard. I don't think the perpetrator or perpetrators went into the backyard for anything. I think everything was done at the front of that house. I think everything could be done at the front of the house. That's why we started out telling you we need to be looking at this in two angles. The angle of, yes, there might be multiple people that are involved, but could this be taken care of with one person? Yes. Yes. And here's another thing. When I stopped and I saw her face, I couldn't help. I started laughing myself. All right, focus, damn it, focus. She's also enjoying the fact that she has the liberty and the liberation of being able to swear. So Miss Ashley Banfield dropped a few F-bombs on us in this programming. The freedom, it's like, I get, everybody don't like the language sometimes, even though you guys probably use it secretly, even though you don't want to tell us about it. That's okay. Nobody's judging. But people don't like hearing it. The neighbors have done searched, held vigils. It's just they didn't broadcast it to everyone. Family have said they don't want people outside the home. Nothing. They've never said that. Show me where the family said they don't want people. They don't want people on their property. They have never said anything on that. I'm sorry, journalists are journalists. So even Savannah Guthrie knows about this. She used to do this for a living. She used to be a journalist. She used to be a reporter. So I disagree with that. I think you're reading too much into it. And I think in all fairness, at the end of the day, you do not have, this is America. I can see by how you're writing neighbors that you're not from this country. So that tells me you're either from Canada or overseas. So you have no idea of our laws here, and it's unfortunate. I get your point, but you're wrong, okay? At the end of the day, I'm going to do anything that's unlawful. I don't care about people's feelings. So I don't care about people's feelings. I'm glad people have feelings, right? The people that I'm concerned about most likely don't have feelings. Why? Because they're dead. Okay, so when some human being that's alive, breathing air above ground, walking and talking and chewing gum and being able to go out and have dinner and sleep in their own bed, I really don't put a lot of weight into their opinions or their feelings, okay? Because people are selfish, they're self-absorbed, and people, they only think of themselves. Like all these people around here only thinking of, oh, we don't want this here. However, if it was their family and they were getting zero resources, I guarantee they would want the whole world showing up for them. So it's hypocritical at best. And the reason why I know this is because I've been on both sides of this. I've been with people that absolutely hated it until they lost a loved one. And guess what they're saying? They're calling my phone saying, hey, can you my niece is missing. I didn't understand how important you were. Can you run her story on your show? You know, and we give 5 minutes to that person. This is somebody that didn't understand why we do what we do until they had to understand why we do what we do. So, you know, I mean, you can flip it. It's a double-edged sword, in my opinion, Haley, a double-edged sword. Because we have here in America the rights to broadcast. We have public, like these roadways belong to us because they don't belong to our government because we pay for them. Okay, the American people pay for everything in our country, not our government. So we own it. This land here, our Americans own. So in our roads, we pay for them. We're allowed to stand in them. We're allowed to protest in them. They can't stop us for being on the side of the road recording. So again, it comes back to who's really in the wrong. The people that are following the law or the people harassing them for following the law. That's what I'm saying.
A struggle out in the family room? Was there a struggle out in the front hall? The kitchen? Where did this crime take place? However long this scumbag was in her home. Filthy scumbag infiltrating this innocent woman's home. Where did the crimes happen? Like, what happened in the home? And I have come to learn, I think you probably, if you follow me regularly, and thank you, that my source told me on day 3 that there was blood found inside the home. Okay.
Haley, I've made my point. I don't care. Okay? At the end of the day, they don't have to bring the child out. You can't stop people from walking the roads, recording things. If you don't want to be recorded, don't go in the public. Because if you go into the public, you can be recorded. Okay? Again, you're not from this country. I can tell by the way you're writing. So you're applying maybe laws from your country to laws of our country. They don't jive. Okay? We have a lot more freedoms here in America than any other country in this world. And that is a fact. So whether you like it or not, or how you feel about it and feel about the children, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Any child that walks out of their house in America and there's a public road, you cannot prevent somebody from recording or filming or anything else. It's within their right. Whether you like it or not, it's within their rights. So they're not doing anything illegal. Nothing. Please do not promote that asshole in my chat, Mike and Haley. Okay? That man is not allowed to be promoted or put in this chat. He's a scumbag. He's a scumbag that actually beats his wife. I was at a birthday party for her. You want to talk about somebody that wants to talk shit about somebody else? I actually witnessed what he did to damage goods. She was on the phone with me while he was doing his shenanigans. So no, I don't want him in my chat. I don't want him being plugged in my chat. Not somebody that has treated me so horribly and wanted to hurt me, physically and violently hurt me, showed up to an event with razors. Do not put him in this chat. Do not put him in this chat.
Okay. Second source of mine confirmed definitely blood inside the home. And that second source went further and told me that the deputies who'd arrived, who thought they were looking for a missing woman, maybe she wandered, an elderly woman didn't show up for her church event and her family has called us. When the more skilled investigators arrived, they saw evidence that indicated they needed to call in a more skilled and experienced team like the homicide investigators, right? They saw, according to my source, the back door was wide open. My first source had told me that the back door was wide open. My second source told me back door's wide open. My episode yesterday, if you haven't seen it, told you which door we think it may have been based on many data points that I have sort of amassed, and that she regularly left her back doors, plural, unlocked. There's a back door that goes...
And she's still on the back door, but she is about to acknowledge that she might have made a mistake. Might have made a mistake.
Into like a storage unit or storage part or a shed part of the house that could be part of the garage, but it doesn't look like it's part of the house. Proper. And then there is a back door that is right smack dab kind of in the middle of the house that goes into the back patio. And it is visible from the front door. If you come in the front door, you can kind of see that back door out to the back patio is right there. And if it's open, you can see it. And we were told there was blood in the house, but I could never find out where.
You're good.
Where did those investigators see it so that they knew there was something so dire that they had to bring in homicide investigators? And now I know. Now I know where the blood is inside the house.
So, now you guys kind of heard that. Has she gone to the back where the sliding glass doors are yet? Did she acknowledge, maybe I might be wrong on the back doors? So getting back to the minor floor plan that, let me go ahead and get all this stuff out of here. Where's my floor plan? Floor plan. So here's the bedroom. Here's the walkway. Here's the out. This looks like it's part of the living room, right? And then you've got the foyer or the porch. Like this is a porch, a patio back on the back side. This is the porch on the front side right there. And that little cove, right? Because you got to step into the porch there. And then we have a patio, an open patio over on this side of the house that has a little concrete wall to go over. So we have the assailant at this area here. We have her in this area here, right? Because we believe that this area here is her bedroom, right here, right? And her sliding glass doors go into her bedroom. We believe the sliding glass doors in here are for the living room. So we believe this is a living room. This is her bedroom. There's got to be a door like right here. So it looks like they drug her from this to there. This is where your area of blood drops, your blood patterns would be. I don't think we're going to find any blood patterns back here or into this entry, the door here, or through the garage door here. I think we've got entry here, we've got attack here, we've got dragging out here, and then we got the blood out that in this area here, and then we see the ridge patterns that appear to be something being rolled away where the blood droplets end. That's kind of how I see this whole thing panning out at this point, okay? So, in my opinion, don't move my body. Let me get my green screen moving. Let me get my green screen moving. There we are. Now we're undocked. Woo! Let's get some seasickness. Hey! Okay. So, right. Oops. Now I got the wrong hand. Damn it. I might have to do it over here. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do it now. Let me just do it over here. There we go. There we go. So, right here, this is the place that I thought that they came in. So, if they ripped her out of the bed, they attacked her in her bed. Her bed's going to be right about here. According to the photos that we saw, right about here. She's got a window over here that we saw. And then we knew that the sliding glass doors were in front of her bed. So her bed is against the wall like this way. So they would have came through here and like immediately attacked her, in my opinion. Lunged at her on her bed. They attacked her, they grabbed her, and they took her through, out her bedroom door and through the living room to the front door. How did they get her there? I don't know. I'm not going to speculate. I think that they dragged her. You know, many people are saying that they believe the comforter is missing off of her bed. I don't know. I don't know what we have here. I really don't. The family hasn't spoken, and we know that the family will not speak because they're wanting the law enforcement detectives, the FBI, and everybody to keep them informed. And one thing that you will learn is if law enforcement keeps you informed and their stuff starts leaking on the internet, they shut it down. That means you don't get any more information from law enforcement. They hold the stuff tight to the chest. However, if you keep that stuff quiet, they will continue to feed you some information that they would not tell anybody else or the public. So, you know, when it comes to these families, you're helping families as a content creator, because sometimes we're the first people that get a hold of these families and are able to give them some guidance. You need to let them know. Don't leak information that law enforcement gives you in confidence. As soon as you do, you turn the spigot off. If you're here to help, right? I'm always here to help. If I can make a story out of it and get some attention to it, I will. But at the end of the day, our advocacy is for the victim and their families. In some cases, sometimes we're fighting the families because the families are the subjects that we believe did harm to their loved one. In this case, I think we looked at that angle. Many of us have kind of come off that angle. Many of you guys have honed in on that angle even more. So we're still all kind of trying to figure out who the who is, right? I believe I'm still not comfortable letting Luke Daly go. And the reason why is because the hurt hand. Now, how did he hurt his hand if he did not go in the backyard and pull that light down, right? How did he hurt his hand? It is my understanding that he hurt his hand in the car wreck. So his hand was already swollen and already hurt before he would have went to this house. It wasn't because he injured himself at this house. It's because he injured himself before he got to this house. And that's what I'm understanding. His hand was hurt before she disappeared. We observed somebody that appeared to have a right hand injury. Luke Daly has a right hand injury. A very noticeable, profound right hand injury. So I'm not too comfortable letting him go, even though we're not accusing him of doing any wrongdoing, but we do want more information when it comes to Luke Daly that we have not gotten, and our worry box is still open. Could Luke Daly have carried this out all by himself? Yes. We do know he has a girlfriend that typically assists him in some type of crimes. We know that he was arrested with his girlfriend once before. Many people tried to say that his girlfriend was related to Miss Nancy Guthrie, and I don't believe that that's the case. But could she have been a part of the getaway driver? Could she have been the one that drove the vehicle there and drove the vehicle back? You know, it seems like somebody was working with the assailant, but we can't be 100 on that. What I do believe happened is that this person went inside that home through the sliding glass doors, not through the back. No break-in, no forced entry. Just happened to push the slider aside and attack the woman in that bed. That's what I believe happened. So let's go. Let's keep going. We're going to keep listening to. Let me get this. Okay, let's put this up front. Nope. Let's put this. Sorry, I need to get rid of all these things. These things are no consequence to me at this point. Okay.
And it is a fascinating piece of data because it is right in the front entrance of the home. Front entrance, front hallway, whatever you want to call that front entrance. We don't have a perfect photograph of the inside of Nancy Guthrie's front entrance. We have a good photograph of what's off to the left, and it is a living room. As you look off to the left, there's a nice living room and a window behind you there and a fireplace and another window and a sliding glass door at the end. But if you're standing at the front entrance, you're looking to the left down the living room and you're looking pretty much straight ahead to the sort of family room area with a fireplace and a nice big long window out the back of the home and then off.
We'll have to go back to gray hues. Actually, I think this is it. So let's just find that photo. There it is. Nope. Yes, that's to the backyard. So I feel like down this hall here, now we get an idea of the living room, right? So it seems like right past this where the door is, you can see that there must be some hallway behind there because it's not going straight to the door. You're not seeing a full door here. You're seeing only a half of a door, which tells me that there is probably behind this wall a hallway. And so it's my opinion that behind this hallway of this living room is where Nancy Guthrie's home is. So I believe that they would have had to drag her around here and out this way to the front door. Okay? That's just where it's starting to develop for me.
Off to the left of that, a door that is more than likely the door that the investigators saw open, because that's what you would see. Could you also see the sliders open way down the left in the living room? If those doors were left open? My source said back doors were routinely left open, not side sliders. There are two sliders that exist on the side of the house, right?
Now on the front of the house, okay? The front. And you have an entry point, a very easy, soft-targeted entry point on the front side of the house. Why are you going to scale a wall to enter through the back of the house? It, to me, just doesn't make sense. You know, she's still on this. The back door was left open. I don't know if that's accurate. I still think she's trying, but she's finally starting to come around, and she'll even say it. Watch. Let me just go back 10 seconds. I'm going to let it go.
Open? My source said back doors were routinely left open.
Routinely. That's not what her source said.
There are two sliders.
This is why I keep getting frustrated with because she keeps changing what her source says. Her source says that the back doors were broken into. One of the back doors were broken into. Not ajar, not left open, smashed in, forced entry back door. That's what her source said. Okay? And she keeps softening it and keeps walking it back and keeps walking it back. And that's what's pissing me off. It's what's pissing me off with Ashley Banfield, because at the end of the day, that is not what her source said. Her source said that there was forced entry from the back of the house. There's no forced entry from the back of the house. And now she's like, oh, my source said that they routinely leave the doors open. When? That's not what you said originally. You said that the damn doors were smashed in, along with all the cameras. Which, outside of having Nest camera right, it seems like everything else is inaccurate. So it's starting to really piss me off. Anyways, I just feel like I need to point this out. And I just wish she'd get off this bullshit and start, because I have to stop and express myself every time she gets on the shenanigans.
That exist on the side of the house, right? Way down the left in the living room, if those doors were left open, my source said back doors were routinely left open, not side sliders. There are 2 sliders that exist on the side of the house, right? You walk in the front door, look all the way down to the left. There's a sliding glass door out to a little patio. And then there's another sliding glass door that goes into another room, presumably the master bedroom, maybe Nancy Guthrie's bedroom. And if you're confused at all between the difference between open and unlocked, let me explain. The investigators saw a back door wide open. That's the reporting I got. Not just unlocked, wide open.
I totally do. I absolutely don't think that this is accurate, but hey, we'll find out.
Open. And the Guthrie kids told the police that Mrs. Guthrie routinely left her back doors unlocked. So those are the difference between unlocked and wide open. As far as sliding glass doors go, they are towards the side of the house. And I was told back door wide open, and back doors, plural, routinely left unlocked. I don't know about the sliding glass doors on the side of the house, way off to the left as you walk in the front door. I'm not sure if those were unlocked as well. Did this perpetrator get in through those? Maybe, possibly.
Maybe, possibly. Well, if you had an officer or source that was directly related to the case, which is what we were told, then we wouldn't be having this conversation here. So I ain't jiving with her source. I do believe that a lot of this stuff was calculated. I believe that we could have heavily looked at the images. The stuff that she came up with could have been talked about. She said, if you go back to her original, when she accused Tommaso, you will hear what she says. She said the back door was forced. The entry was at forced entry into one of the back doors is what she said. Forced entry in the back doors. That's what her sources said. And now she's like, oh, well, it was just wide open, or I don't like this walking back. And she's slowly doing it. Every time she comes in, she modifies those original statements a little bit more, and modifies those original statements a little bit more, saying my source. Well, your source said this. And now you're saying your source is saying this. So which is it? What about someone has a key? Yeah, I guess it's possible, but in the situation we're in, if he had a key, I think he would have went through that front door. We don't know. I don't know. I guess it's possible. Honestly, it could be possible, but I think if somebody's key was used, we wouldn't be worried about broken doors or Chris Nanos telling people don't leave your sliding glass doors that you're putting yourself open because you're putting yourself in danger. That seemed pretty straightforward.
I don't know. But the blood now in the front entrance of the home is a significant detail about this crime. Just in the front entrance. Not in the bedroom, not in the kitchen, not in the living room, not in that family room. The front entrance has a pattern of blood that is the same as it is outside, and it goes over the threshold out the door.
And this is going to be very interesting because she brings up a professional, and here's the professional. And what he says that's really, really, really super interesting to me is he says that maybe the person was repositioned and why the blood pattern stopped. And I thought, ooh. Because why didn't we still see the dripping when they were hooked up on the handcart and drugged to the car? Why was there no more blood dripping off of her while she was being trucked out to the getaway vehicle? Oh, is it me and you's birthday? Happy birthday, me and you. Where is it? Did I hear me and you's birthday? How do we know that Nancy didn't leave the door unlocked when the Uber picked her up for dinner? Good question. And where did they pick her? Did she go up out the front door? That's a great question. I don't know. It's my birthday, she says. Well, happy birthday to you. Toot, toot. Happy birthday to you. Toot, toot. Happy birthday, me and you. Happy birthday to you. There you go. Me and you showing up to your birthday like, hey. Happy birthday. I usually do Brando, but I haven't been wanting to do happy birthday to you. Okay. We got it. We got it. Well, happy birthday. I didn't put my hat on or my glasses. I kind of feel like I shortchanged you. I feel like I forced you. Aw, thank you. Yes, well, happy birthday. Enjoy your day, love. I hope you have an amazing day. I hope you're doing something special for yourself or somebody doing something special for you. It's nice. Aw, happy birthday. Happy birthday. All right. So this guy here, he's talking about the patterns. I like what he says, but it kind of goes ominous because of this whole positioning thing, Mike's birthday too. Well, happy birthday, Mike. Maybe I'll do the Brando for Mike. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, oh Mikey Poo Poo. Oh, that probably sounds awful. Mikey Poo, that's what I wanted for it to say. Happy birthday to you. I don't have the lungs. Not today. I didn't do my breathing exercises. I didn't do my breathing exercises. If I killed your ears, oh well. Okay, at least you got ears to kill. Okay? Be blessed. Be blessed. All right, guys. It's nice to see you. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. All right, let's get back. Let's get back to what this guy says. Little ominous, little concerning, but the repositioning, I think, starts supporting deceased. And you guys know how I feel about this. I'm just trying to make heads or tails of what we're seeing. And everything that we're hearing, it doesn't make any sense. If this guy truly acted alone, I still believe it's a sexual assault. If we find out that this guy is working with other people, then I believe it's a hit. And that's just how I'm going to, because nothing's missing from the house. So it's one of the two. I don't believe that this person had any attachment to Miss Guthrie. I want to know what they did in the house for 40 minutes. That's why I've always believed, especially hearing that, it really solidified my thought process of this sexual assault. Because somebody that's there to sexually assault somebody is going to take a little bit of time, especially if they know their assailant is incapacitated. And we did see what appears to be a walkie-talkie. We've seen a line that appears to be somebody speaking to somebody. So I don't know if the sexual assault theory fits, because it's very uncommon to have two people, working for one person to sexually assault a person. You see what I'm... So the sexual assault scenario, in my opinion, doesn't fit with two people. It will only fit with one person and could explain a lot. It would explain why nothing is missing. It would explain why the assailant was inside the house for 40-something minutes. It would explain everything. But we do have what appears to be a walkie-talkie. We have seen what appears to be a earpiece coming down to his mouth. And so when you start applying those observations, it's kind of teetering us over to multiple people, either two or more. And it's when you start dealing with 2 or more people, you're not really dealing with a sexual assault scenario anymore. You're dealing with something else. So now you're looking at robbery, and we know that the robbery doesn't fit because nothing of value was taken from the home. Even if they killed her inside that home, they're still going to grab the shit they came for. Okay? So I just don't, it's hard for me to process this and say that this was a burglary gone wrong because nothing was taken and the body wasn't left behind. They took the body with them. And the only time I've heard of them taking the body with them is one of 2 reasons. Somebody ordered that they are not to be found, and again, supports the hit. Or there was so much forensic evidence on the person, they had to take the person with them. And so that, they said Nancy had over $300 in her purse. I don't know how true that is. I've never known any older ladies to have that type of money in their purse. I've known millionaires, and they're elderly. They don't keep that kind of money in their purse. They keep $20. That's a lot of money for a little lady to have with her. But maybe the second person watched the sexual assault. I mean, I guess it could be twisted like that, but it's still very rare. It's still very rare to have a second person involved with something like this. The only time you get that type of thing is when you're dealing with the predators, like the ones that look for young. They sometimes work in concerted effort, especially when they're abducting somebody, right? But this is kind of more elderly. Again, we have geriatric rapes and people that are geriatric rapists. That means that their MO is older individuals. And that would be here. That would be what we're looking at here if it was a single person. And I'm getting back to the single person thing and starting to talk about that, even though we potentially could see that thing in their pocket. But let's face it, we're assuming that it's a walkie-talkie, just like we assumed for a few days that it was a jammer, a signal jammer, right? What if it's neither? What if it just happens to be some type of, I know they brought it up, like a scanner. Maybe it's something that wasn't internet or, something based. Maybe it was something different. Maybe they had a different type of scanner that doesn't have this long antenna that was used. And maybe he was listening to see if law enforcement was being called to the house while he was outside of it. I mean, we can start thinking about blood drops stopped on the doorway because the car was driven to the steps of the house. I believe there actually, that might not even be true as well, Haley. It's possible. But there were something that had wheels on it that dragged. Maybe you missed yesterday's show, Haley. Let me see if I can find that. I thought she put the tracks up too. Maybe she didn't. Maybe she didn't put the tracks up. We have tracks, ruts outside of the house. Tracks outside. You can't really see them, but there's like tracks. This image doesn't have them, are not very clear. But there's tracks, there's ruts, there's what looks to appear to be 2 wheels that were in the driveway. I don't have the photo here. We did go over it yesterday, But there were tracks. Do I have it on my phone? Hold on. Maybe I have it on my phone. Hold on. Maybe I have it in. Give me just a second, guys. I think I do have them. I could have sworn we showed them on this show yesterday. But I moved a lot over. Yeah, here we go. Let me just get these up for you guys. There we go. Okay, I'm sending it to the computer now. Give it just a second. Okay, here they are. You couldn't see them because people had drove over it, but you can see almost perfectly. Oh, I don't have it up here. You can see almost perfectly right here, these ridges. See, so you got the blood pattern coming all the way down, and then you see where these lines, these tracks, come all the way up here. So it looks like, and we did see the car in the background from this assailant. So what this is almost telling me, just bear with me when I go through this with you, what this is telling me is they drug her out of the front door. Whatever she was doing, she was dripping blood. I think they repositioned her because they loaded her onto something and it stopped the blood dripping. And she was wheeled out to the car that we see behind the assailant. That's what I think happened. Now, what are these tracks? One of two things. They either used something from the house, which theoretically might explain, if the back door truly was open, why the back door was open. If the assailant accidentally killed Miss Guthrie in that house and they're like, oh shit, we need to get her out of here. Well, maybe they didn't have anything with wheels to drag her out. And they went out that back door to see if there was anything outside, anything in the storage unit, anything that they could use to wheel her out of the house. We didn't hear the garage door was open, and everybody's talking about the garbage cans. But the garbage cans were inside that garage. Listen here, folks. We did see them pay special attention to the garage, to garbage can. When Mike Ruiz had the camera there, actually, let me see if I can find Mike Ruiz. Let's look at this. Might as well. We have some time this morning. So let's go to Mike Ruiz. I know he had he had the drone out there, or maybe it was Brian Enton. We'll go to Mike Ruiz first, and then we'll go to Brian Enton. And see what they have in their media. But I'm pretty sure, I think it might have been Brian Enton. Hold on, let me go to Brian Enton first. I think it is Brian Enton, as a matter of fact. Because I remember Mo is the one that had it. I believe it was Mo. I think Mo was out there with him, or somebody was out there with him. I like Mo. I know Mo. I don't know him. Like, I've seen him around enough that he knows me. Oh, this is that frickin' D.A. Krasner. I can't stand this man. This man right here, he got Kata Scott killed. That right there, you guys in Pennsylvania, in Philly, like, what the hell is wrong with you folks? This man got a young woman killed, and you guys put him back in office? So sick of the crap. I really am. That man's got to go. Another piece of garbage. All right, let's get to Brian Enton. See what we got here. Media. Okay, let's just keep going here. Okay, these are the days when we were out there. There it is. Found it, folks. Found it. Okay. Guys, what is that officer looking at? Oh, shh. Did you guys hear that thing just start going to echo? I hit this and it moved my little knob that gives me the echo. This right here moved the knob. I'm like, what the hell just happened? That scared me ever so little bit. But look at this. Folks, what are they looking at? I hope she found soon. I do too, Haley. I do too. I hope she is found soon. It's so bad. Garbage cans with 2 wheels makes more sense. So look what this officer, let's play this for everybody. So if you guys didn't see it when I covered it, here is the drone. They were able to get drone footage out there when this was the second trip. Okay, so let me just give you guys a little bit of perspective. So we learned that Miss Nancy Guthrie was missing on February 1st. I think I learned of the case early morning February 2nd. It already started hitting it just started exploding. The case started exploding. So a lot of law enforcement went out there. Chris Nanos did the press conference. He said that we have a crime scene. He went ahead and released that crime scene back to the family. Then all of a sudden, the cavalry, we're critical of that. The cavalry shows up. This is when the FBI went back to the house a second time. So remember that they had released the house back to the family. The tape was all taken down. And then bada bing, bada boom, the tape was put back up, and we see a huge force of law enforcement that we believed at the time was the FBI coming in to look at the scene. And this is where all of media is already out front by this time. So we've got drones in the air, we've got helicopters in the air. So these people are really having to work under very strained conditions. And why do I say strained conditions? Because normally officers can point and say, look at this, or, talk to their team and point to certain things. If you notice, their hands are staying in their pocket. They're doing that intentionally to prevent themselves from pointing or directing anything that can be caught on film, because they know they are being recorded by the news. So you'll see a lot of people with their hands on their book bags. You don't really see them pointing, but you see their body turning. They're doing that so they can talk to their team without pointing in any specific location, direction, or any specific item. And so you see right here, this officer is kind of, meandering, just looking, not really interested, just taking a look-see, right? He's doing that because I'm pretty sure he sees the drone outside of the garage and knows he's being recorded and needs to be careful. So let's watch. That's the backdrop of where this came from. But we noticed immediately, look at the bottles, look at the cans knocked over. Look at all this stuff. We got a broom that's knocked over. We got a can that's out here. Now, I believe this is from one of the techs. This is a tech bag. I don't think this was there. But we do have some disturbing, and I don't know, did somebody open this can, or was this can already opened like this? Because this seems awfully interesting. I don't know of a trash can of anybody that leaves their lid off like this unless it's a broken can. And if it's a broken can, I can't imagine that Miss Guthrie didn't call for a new can. I just had my lid ripped off my recycle, my blue bin. And so I had to call it in, and they sent me out a new can with a new lid. So it was, it took a couple weeks, but I don't see Miss Guthrie going without a lid on her can. So I don't know if this is the way it was found, but I find it awfully suspect, because I don't believe Miss Guthrie would leave a tripping item like this broom. Was this broom from the crew? Did they sweep some stuff up to collect it as trace evidence? Is this stuff part of the tech's processes? Did the tech leave this can laying down here? Did the tech not pick up the broom? I don't know. It looks like there is some type of disturbance out here in the garage. Does that explain why that back door may have been open? If it was, I'm still not convinced that back door was wide open yet.
Out to Mo here on the drone. Let me see again.
Yeah, there's Mo. Yep.
So I can't tell, are they getting things in the garage, or are they just using it to go in and out?
See, look how they're
open. Look at the door. That's open. Is that open? No, it's not open. It's closed.
See how they're talking? They're backing up. He's talking with his back toward the drone. They're doing this purposefully, and I think it's because they don't want anybody being able to see what they're talking about. He's even even avoiding them even seeing his lips. I mean, this guy's a smart guy.
Gloves, yeah. What is happening right there? Like, is he photographing something?
Look at this.
Yeah, let me see if I can't.
He's not really wanting to touch the top of the lid of the garbage can. Where did they go? Come on, get us back there.
I don't know.
Huh. So that's what you guys see. As you guys see, we are in there. Many people thought about the garbage can. It looks like law enforcement is also scrutinizing that garbage can. So why would the garbage can be placed back in its original spot? It's as if this person wheeled. If the garbage can was used, let's think of the process here. You're talking about somebody wheeling this lady out to a car, loading her up into a car, and then wheeling this garbage can back to the garage and putting it in the garage without ever once opening the garage. Because remember, the garage control, we know it would open from 8:48 and closed at 9:48 and closed at 9:50 when she was dropped off at home. We never heard of this garage door opening again. So where did this moving thing come from? If it wasn't the garbage can and it wasn't a wheelchair, then that means the assailant brought whatever they used to transport this lady with them. So that means it could be a hand truck, you know, like, or a dolly or something else like that. But how interesting is it that the blood stops? Why was she no longer bleeding? Why was she no longer bleeding when at the end of that walkway? That's what kind of perplexes me.
First of all, just the overarching information that we've learned, and that is that the blood droplet pattern that we've all seen outside Nancy's front door continues over the threshold and inside her front entrance. But that's it. That's it for blood spatter, for blood droplets, for blood evidence in this crime scene.
So what's interesting about those blood droplets is that they're what we refer to in blood stain pattern analysis as drip stains. And drip stains are probably the most common stains that we see, and they are what they sound like. They are blood dropping from an object and landing on a surface, and they have no energy associated with them. It's simply gravity pulling blood down and blood falling onto a surface. And notice I didn't say it means that somebody's bleeding, although very often that is what's happening. What could be happening here is that, and we're all assuming that is Nancy Guthrie's blood.
No, we know that.
Yeah.
We do know that. The sheriff confirmed it's hers.
Okay, right, because otherwise we'd be doing forensic genetic genealogy on that unknown blood. But what it means is that an object, most likely Nancy Guthrie, is the source of blood outside the threshold, right? So outside the door. But where it stops can mean one of two or even more things. One is that she is put into a vehicle. It is she or somebody sees that she's bleeding and then stops it, right? Puts a towel, puts a hand, does something to stop the bleeding. The other thing it can be is that she is repositioned. And the repositioning changes the blood flow.
Well, that would be really...
So that is exactly what I'm talking about. Let's go back 20 seconds and let's listen to what he's saying again.
She or somebody sees that she's bleeding and then stops it, right? Puts a towel, puts a hand, does something to stop the bleeding. The other thing it can be is that she is repositioned.
That is the most alarming. Because this whole repositioning and the ruts, I think, truly support this hit homicide type of thing. Like the only objective of this person was to go in the house and kill this lady. Like I'm starting to believe that was the only purpose of this whole thing. And that's really problematic to me because, yes, they readjusted the tarp. She was rolled up. And see, that's what I'm getting at, Mike, is that it appears that, you know, we've all kind of had the same ideas in part, at least one of several theories that we have, right? I've got several theories. We talk about the several theories I have. It seems like this hit theory seems to be the most probable for me in my brain cell and the way my brain works. It seems to be the most probable. Now, when we have somebody that's going in there to hit or is bought and paid for as a hit person, somebody that goes and executes people for profit, are they out there? We know they are. Who would they be? Well, they're not people that look like GQ, okay? They're not people that look like GQ. They're not people that look like James Bond. They look like thugs. They probably have tattoos all over their face, willing to do anything for a buck. They probably have drug problems and alcohol problems and all kinds around messed up problems. You don't know what person, no normal person that has no problems in their life wakes up one day and says, hey, I want to be a hitman. Okay? They do it for profit to support something. Okay? And typically it has to do with drugs. So you're not talking about the best class of people when you're looking for a hitman. And where would you get a hitman? Black market? You know, us learning about the black market and dark web is more of a commonplace for our youngsters. They understand computers very well, much better than us before the internet. You know, if I was young when the internet was here and we learned about the internet and understanding all of this stuff, then maybe I would be further along as well. But I was being raised when computers were just being invented. You know, I had an old style Macintosh computer. There was no internet when I was using the computer. As a matter of fact, you had disks. You had floppy disks, ones that looked this big, ones that looked this big, that you had to use. Everything had to be stored on a disk. Those disks, and God forbid you ruined your disk, you wiped all your information. There was no cloud. There was no backup. You were screwed. Okay? In our school, we were never allowed to do our homework on a computer. We were never allowed to turn reports in that were typed. We had to write everything out by hand, and we had to use cursive in many cases, depending on our age and what class we were in. So all of this stuff related to computers, we have no earthly idea about like the young people do. Okay? The young people know how to create apps. They know how to create programs. They know how to do everything with computers because they were taught. It's just a common knowledge and with the upbringing of the schools this day and age as opposed to during our times. So people knowing they can purchase things on Instagram and Telegram and the dark web, you know, these are common shopping places for many people that know more about this stuff than we do. And could somebody have been ordered to take? Yes, they could have. Could somebody had been ordered to go over and execute this lady? Yes, they could have. Could they have ordered it online? Yes, they could have. Could this all be anonymous where the person that ordered it and the person that carried it out not know each other? Yes. In today's society with cryptocurrency and everything else, yeah. The things that we created to keep our government out of our business is now being used by the worst of the worst in our country and other countries abroad. Just remember that. All this stuff, the cryptocurrency and everything, it's because our government was spying on us. We started developing other avenues, signals, so we had, you know, encrypted conversations. And now we're dealing with the bad guys using all this stuff that we didn't want our government following us and monitoring us, and now they're using it to get away with literally murder. It's just a double-edged sword. It's like no matter what we do to get our government out of our business, bad guys exploit it to harm citizens. It's awful. It's awful. We're allowed to use calculators. I know we weren't allowed to. You had to do it long form. That is true. The only time we got into calculators was when we were doing fraction and learning about pi and all of that stuff. That's when we started getting into more formulas. That's when those scientific calculators came into play. But other than that, Sorry, Charlie. If you couldn't do it by hand, you failed. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely.
And the repositioning changes the blood flow.
Well, that would be really critical if we have.
So I just really feel like this really supports she is a victim of homicide. She's a victim of homicide. This is a no body homicide case that a piece of garbage sheriff doesn't know how to properly classify, among 1,000 other things in a list of bad acting. You know, if he just acknowledged that he's wrong, and he just acknowledges that he needs to do better and needs to change his way of thinking, you know, I think that it would be a little bit better for this case. But he's coming under heavy scrutiny, and he's saying, I'm doing nothing wrong. Like, that is the arrogance. And just, again, I think this guy has narcissistic tendencies, but I think it goes over that because of his past behavior. I think he's a sociopath. I think they have a sociopath as a sheriff in the Pima County office. Undiagnosed sociopath.
Had a continuation, but we don't. My sources tell me that what you see is what you get, except for the stuff inside that I broke, in this podcast. And that is that the blood droplets go down the outside entrance of Nancy's home and down the path and stop. No gap and then restart. So it just seems logical that that's where a car could easily park, and that's where she could have been taken away.
And it's our position that the car was not parked there, that we have rather something being drug. Obviously, there appears to be, we know that there was a car. At least I'm convinced there was a car down here. I think we can see it over the guy's shoulder. I think that, I'm surprised Ashley Banfield has not started talking about the car behind him. It's on everything. It appears that there's a car behind the guy's shoulder. And then we have these drag or wheel patterns that appear to have rolled something of weight to someplace. And where these lines, these grooves and ruts of something being rolled away start right where the blood droplets stop. So people keep thinking that it's a car that came and picked him up. I think they wheeled her out to the car. I don't think they pulled the car up here. I think they took whatever they had and they wheeled her. I think that somebody carried her over the shoulder, and it was just drip, 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 drip. They had something, they plopped her in it, and then rolled her out and got her loaded up in the vehicle. That's kind of where I'm at with this. Now, is it possible that the garbage can was used? I believe it's possible. Now, there's only one other avenue that we have to explore with these ruts and lines. Oh, you can't even see them. Hold on, let me move this. Ruts and lines. So these things right down here. The only thing about these ruts and lines right here is, when were they placed there? When were they placed there? Because it is possible. I mean, there is the possibility a car came up here and picked her up. We saw a car up behind, so they were pointed this way, so it would be very easily for them to drive, come on up, pick her up here and then drive out this way and take off. It's absolutely possible. That seems, to be honest with you, this right here seems like the path of least resistance. We got the assailant up here. We see through here that there's a car somewhere down here. And he's got what appears potentially to be a walkie-talkie. Why wouldn't he drive the car up here? Why would they go and grab a bin to drag her out to the car versus pulling the car up? When you look at it from that angle, it doesn't make sense. So that also could imply that these markings here were made after the abduction. And what do you mean after the abduction? Well, we had a lot of crime scene people there. They had a lot of boxes. The forensic teams had to come in. I'm pretty sure that some of their stuff had to be wheeled in. Some of that stuff is heavy. You know, if you need if you need your whole kit and your kit's in a box with all your supplies, you're going to drag that kit into the house. So, or drag it to somewhere where you can, utilize it and get your stuff out of it. So could those things have come from that? There is a possibility of that as well. Okay. Because, again, we got drag patterns that appear to go down the driveway like they're going to a vehicle. Could this been something that somebody just didn't know what the hell they were doing and didn't think to pull the car up and decided just to grab a hand truck and bring her out to the car? I don't know. I don't know if any of us will know unless we can find out what happened. Because if you look over here, there's tracks over here, too, that appear to have the same width as the lines here in the front. See those? You guys see that? Can you guys see that back there? Oh, you guys can't see that back there. See? Back here. You see the same lines with the same width back here. So, I don't know what to say about all this. I don't know what to say about all this, but we definitely need to point it all out to everybody so you guys can decide, because let's face it, when we saw all those blood droplets at the front door, I was just taken back that there was no footprints in the blood when you're expecting somebody to be dragging or bringing an assailant, walking a victim out the front door, and blood's coming from their head or their nose or whatever the case may be, right? So you sit there and you just look at it and wonder why there's no footprints in this blood. And so I couldn't figure it out. My brain just would not let me justify how or reconcile how we have drops of blood, straight up and down drops of blood, like something's dripping, drip, 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 like you got a nosebleed, right? And it just drips, drips, drips. How do we not have footprints in all that blood? And when I put that out there, it took a couple days, and we talked about it for, I think, 24 or 48 hours. And finally somebody said, I bet you they threw her over their shoulder. And she was dripping blood out the back, and their feet are in front of the blood. And that, for the first time, made sense to me. And it was like, that sounds right. Right? We don't know if it's right, but out of all the other options that we had, that was the one that made the most sense. So we started running with that. I didn't think of that. Y'all thought of that. So now the question is, and you guys are going to have to really dive into your heart and soul on this case and find out, what do you believe? Was she rolled out to the car, or did the car pull up and pick her up? I think that's going to be a very, very, very interesting tidbit of information. I really do. Is the reason why the blood drop stopped is because they repositioned her in a tarp or in a blanket? Or maybe all the blood had already spilled out that was going to spill out. We don't know. We don't know. And of course, the person talking about this case, the person running this case, is Chris Nanos. And Pima County Sheriff Department has come under heavy scrutiny about his record, about his deception, and about his handling of the Nancy Guthrie case. So when we look into his history, what we're finding is not very pleasing. And of course, Brian Enton Investigates had an opportunity to speak with Chris Nanos' prior boss before he became sheriff of this department. And as soon as he became sheriff of this department, he burnt every single bridge he had very quickly. He turned into a monster, a power-hungry bully. That is the real Chris Nanos, which has not changed one iota from 40 years ago when he thought it was okay for him to take a flashlight and beat an arrestee handcuffed, beat him almost to death. I don't know about you, but I never want the ick of any sheriff like that representing my county. We want upstanding sheriffs that know how to do their job. This man has been a hothead his entire career, and people of Pima County were so ignorant, and it's not your fault. You guys were deceived about it. But this is where it's so important to research who you're voting for, not surface research, deep dive research. Because if just one person in their community would have done their job, Chris Nanos would not be here. And that's a fact. So let's get talking about his prior employment. This is the guy that used to be Chris Nanos' boss. And he has got a lot to say about the sheriff and why the community has finally just had it with the shenanigans of this sheriff.
The lay of the land of Tucson, and then you were out of town for quite some time, and I'm interested to catch up with you and get your perspective on some of the things that have been happening for the last month or so. The first thing I wanted to ask you, Rick, is I was actually up last night kind of thinking about this. Why do you think we never really saw anyone searching for Nancy? I mean, there were initially, I remember they called in Bortak, like, I think it was like day 1 or 2, very briefly, but there was never a big grid search. There was never like a coordinated search.
Well, I think that's a valid point. And one of the concerns that a lot of people have had related to the way this operation has been handled. And I think your viewers and you know full well I have some serious concerns. By the way, thanks for having me back. I appreciate the fact that you want to talk to me. And as you well know, I've been retired from the organization for a couple of years now, but I did serve there over 46 years, and I know the players intimately. That said, you're talking about a grid search. Initially, the case was handled as though this was an elderly woman who walked away from her home. That was the initial response for the first, perhaps 18, 24 hours or so. And that did involve a search. There were search and rescue components on the ground, some on foot, some on horseback, and of course the helicopter. That didn't really find anything, but as soon as the sheriff's department saw the initial evidence, and now we have the luxury 7 weeks out to understand what that is.
Apparently.
It became very clear, at least to me, that this was a very sophisticated abduction. And
he's saying sophisticated. All the other talking heads say that this was a beginner's luck, so to speak. So I find this pretty intriguing, this ex-officer's opinion.
The initial evidence, and now we have the luxury 7 weeks out to understand what that is. It became very clear, at least to me, that this was a very sophisticated abduction. And when I use that word sophisticated, I don't use it lightly, because the preparation that took place of the individual or individuals that committed this crime is evident in the video that we've seen. It's evident in the scene itself. And even the sheriff has concluded this was an abduction. That's not rocket science, but it's scary because we don't know what the intent was initially. I have some guesses, and there were, getting back to the grid idea, the grid search itself, one of the things they want to do is look very carefully from the point of origin, which would have been her home, and perhaps any evidence that led 360 degrees around her home, footprints,
I agree with
articles
that,
of clothing, things she might have been carrying. Of course, then the next step would be, well, where would she logically go? Has she done this before? But as we became well aware, she had the mental faculties and sharpness of a much, much younger person. Her family told investigators that up front, and the need for a ground search was put on the back burner. That's the way I see it spiraling forward.
So this has always been my favored. Well, let's just get to the timeline, and then I'm going to go into some conversations. This is why it's so important. Here's the timeline. So if you guys don't know about the timeline, we've got up at the top, this is when she took the Uber over to Annie Guthrie's home, and then she comes home. Tommaso Cioni drops her off around 9:48. The garage opens. Ooh, I got allergies. Thank you. It's not getting any better either. So the garage door closes at 9:52 minutes into the home. It looks like it's, from what we hear, is Tommaso not only dropped her off, but walked her in the house to make sure she was okay and got in safely. Around 1:47 in the morning, a camera goes offline. 2:12, emotion is detected. And 2:28 is the pacemaker signal is lost from the app. The next morning, almost noon time, the family goes to the house and finds the house empty, immediately calls 911, and then of course the sheriff and the cavalry, well, semi-cavalry, comes in because the sheriff is too busy at a family picnic to even give a damn about a citizen that was drug out of her bed in the middle of the night. And what a shame that law enforcement was too intimidated to even call him on his day off to tell him about this. So this really sets off why we have the problems we have with Pima County, why it took so long to get a plane up in the air, why it took so long for even the sheriff to know that this was Nancy Guthrie, and why the FBI was delayed in being contacted for assistance. It's because of Chris Nanos. Chris Nanos. So if you want to know why things don't get done in Pima County, well, we can say it's Chris Nanos. And he doesn't like us talking about him like that. Well, my position would be, quit acting like that if you don't want to be talked to like that. Come down off your high horse. But instead, he's hiding like a coward, only speaking to NBC. He's not speaking to any other news organization. I think he needs to be ripped out of his job. I think he needs to be fired. I think he needs to be stripped of his badge, his gun, and his retirement and pension for years of deception. For years of deception.
But even weeks later, or even now, and I think to Savannah's or the Guthrie family statement that just came out in the last 24 hours, and it's so sad, but they seem to be acknowledging that Nancy is probably not with us anymore. And I think most people have kind of sadly come to that reality. But why wouldn't you still do some kind of search? And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you can tell me, you had so many years in law enforcement, but wouldn't you still do some kind of search to see if there's a grave, to see if there's a body somewhere? Or is it just too vast, the desert?
Well, to do it now would be difficult at best because the weather, wind, there's been rain here in this part of the country during the 7 weeks she's been missing, and that obscures anything you might find. But of course, you ask about a grave, but what would be the motivation of an individual to abduct her from her home and then take her somewhere, presumably with the intent to gain something, and we don't know what that is. A lot of us surmise it has to do with some financial gain. And
it might be, but why isn't anybody looking at this as being a targeted hit? Not one professional that I have seen has even talked about the theory of this person being bought and paid for. Not one. It's as if all the professionals have excluded this out of their possibility, and I want to know why. Because it seems pretty probable to me. And I think if we start going down that avenue, we might get some pay dirt. But nobody has, not one professional, not one person everybody is just parroting each other. All the professional, this looks like a robbery gone wrong, or no, this is different than a robbery gone wrong, but always falling short of what it is. Not one time have I heard any professional talk about the possibility of somebody being paid to go over there. I mean, you've got a man casing the joint. Everybody's like, oh, well, he must be casing it to rob it. In today's society, this is a wealthy lady. This lady has a lot of tentacles in different places, a very wealthy daughter. So why is nobody even considering the possibility of somebody hiring to execute this lady? Not one theory has been that, and that always makes me a little EBGB, because I'm one of those people that like to have all the theories. Kind of, what could this possibly mean? Let's throw them all on the table and let's pick one theory up at a time and run with it. Put these in order of what one holds the most water the way it is, and start going down the list to find out what we're dealing with here. And I feel like this person going in there being hired to execute this lady has never come up in any type of theory. And if they're not going to bring it up, why don't they say, listen, the reason why we're not bringing up this aspect of it is because of X, Y, and Z. It doesn't seem like it holds water because of X, Y, and Z. And just explain it away, but you're not hearing that from any of the professionals. So I would like to start hearing from some of the professionals, is there a possibility of this being a hired hit, an execution? A pure and simple, we went in there to get this lady, execute her, and take her out. Because it kind of feels like what it is, in part, for me. We're not seeing any sexual assault aspect of this. We're not seeing any money motivation aspect of it. Think about it. We've got 0 ransom notes confirmed as being legitimate. So if it was money and ransom, where's the ransom? Where's the demand for money? It doesn't seem like either one of those exist, but everybody keeps acting like it does. They keep saying that this is a robbery gone wrong, but if it is true and there was $300 in that lady's pocketbook and nothing is missing from this lady's house, we're not looking at a robbery here. So now we're not looking at a robbery. We're not looking at a ransom. So what are we looking at here? What is the most logical place to go from here? Nobody's talking about it. I'd like to hear some more conversations of this particular topic. Even the seasoned retired law enforcement agent here is not even talking about the possibility of this being a hired hit.
But what would be the purpose of burying her if she passed near the home? That doesn't make a lot of sense, and it's not a likely scenario. There's several others that you and I have explored that I've shared with you. I know that the sheriff's department has information they cannot reveal.
But we also have to remember, people typically don't drive too far with abductees or deceased people. Now, is there some cases that defy logic on that? Yeah, there are. But he's saying, what's the point? This guy, in my opinion, is not looking at statistics. Because statistics show you people don't ride around and take people far, far away that are abductees or that have been victims of homicide. They try to get them dumped as quickly as possible, therefore very close by. That is my theory. I believe this lady is closer than we think. I don't think she's in Mexico. I think she's somewhere within 10 miles to 20 miles of that house. That's my belief. 10 to 20 miles from that house, tops. Tops. They said the Malibu was a nothing burger. I can't go off of anything other than what law enforcement says about that. They said it was a domestic violence situation, that they spoke to the people. I mean, that's a really large lie if they didn't speak to the people and it wasn't a domestic related situations. But that's what law enforcement says. They found the people. The Malibu was cleared of being responsible or having anything to do with Nancy Guthrie because it was a domestic relation issue between a husband and a wife. That's what I heard.
And they will not, just to maintain the integrity of the case. But ground searches were conducted. Several of them considerably later than one would have hoped, because they found gloves, plural. They found a glove that belonged to somebody working at a nearby restaurant. And that kind of doesn't make sense. Apparently there's some association between other evidence and an Uber driver. I know that they've interviewed, you reported at one point, the FBI SRT team went out and interacted with somebody who was an Uber driver. That didn't produce anything concrete. And they've taken steps to be as careful as possible. But as you've heard from me before, I don't think the right things were done initially. And I think the outcome, it may or may not have changed if certain things were done initially. Regardless, they're still pursuing this.
I will say that this, if, again, and it comes back to whether you believe Nancy was alive when she left that house or not. My top theory is she was dying or deceased at the time she was removed from the home. So nothing would, in my mind, prevented Nancy from losing her life. Now, there's a caveat on that. The caveat on that is that just because I believe she was deceased when she left that house, that is a gut feeling. That is a theory. That is my opinion. That does not have any supporting evidence. Pure evidence, not circumstantial, pure evidence that supports she was dead or dying when she left the house. We have some blood droplets. We know she was bleeding, but the blood droplets that we see are not life-threatening. We don't see a massive pool of blood. We see dripping of blood droplets. So we're not dealing with a situation that, we can say, oh, she was deceased before she was. So I got no evidence for that. It's just a theory. It's just a theory. But what if my theory is wrong? What if my theory is wrong? What if she was upright? What if they did take her? What if they did think about, possible monetary gain by getting her and taking her alive? Well, now you got a situation with, because of the Pima County Sheriff, because of all his delays, when those minutes and seconds mattered the most, because of his failures, he killed this lady. This lady lost her life because they could not get to her because he was ignorant. And only the people that can blame the sheriff for her death are the ones that believe she was alive when she left that house. I don't. I believe she was dying when she left that house. Because my number one theory is that this was a hit. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't anything where the person that was jaded or resentful. If multiple people are involved in this, I believe that this was a hired orchestrated event. If it was a lone actor, one that was acting all by himself, and he was in that house for 40-something minutes alone with Nancy, I believe he did that. I believe he sexually assaulted her and murdered her and drug her out of the house and hit her. But with everything that we know, it seems like there might be more people involved, which would support a hired hit.
Be it a much smaller investigative entity, but they're still pursuing this.
You mentioned things that they're holding back, law enforcement. I know you don't work there anymore, but you did work there for more than 40 years, which is amazing, by the way. Do you think that there's a lot they're holding back? Because I've kind of struggled with that. Like, do you think there's things that they saw inside the house, like big, details that they are specifically not telling the public? Or do you think by this point that stuff...
Where are you guys hearing this stuff? See, this is the problem, is I don't know where you guys go to get your information. And I don't trust, there's only a few content creators on this platform I trust to actually give you guys legitimate information. Okay, I do not trust everybody at all. Actually, I trust hardly anybody. If you want my truth, I trust hardly anybody. If my mama didn't give birth to me, I wouldn't trust her. Okay? And that's because of this job. This specific job. I used to have a lot of trust. I was very naive in the world. But at the end of the day, I trust no one. So I do all the research myself. I look into stuff myself. Sometimes I make mistakes. The majority of the time I don't. You know, we have a good high batting average, but we do make mistakes occasionally in our reporting and of course in our assessments. Some things change. The more information you have, the better fine-tune your assessment can be. We're kind of flying blind here. We have very limited information to make assessments and determinations on. And so we have to give you guys a lot of different options. But where did anybody see this whole thing where Savannah asked Kathy Lee Guilford not to speak publicly about her mother? I don't know any journalist that would go out, because she's a journalist and an attorney. And it seems to me that everybody would know that people have a right to speak about everything and anything. This is America. We have freedom of speech. Somebody that's utilizing freedom of speech like a co-anchor on Today's Show. I just don't see doing that or saying that. But just because I don't see them doing it and saying it doesn't mean they didn't. So my next question would be, where did you hear that? I know you had to hear it from somewhere. I know it's not you. So because you've been here for a really long time, so I know you don't spread around gossip or anything like that. So this tells me that you've heard this somewhere, and I'm curious where you heard it, because I haven't. Not saying that it's not true. This is the first I'm hearing about it. I've never heard Savannah tell anybody, even Ashley Banfield, not to talk about her mom. In all fairness, we haven't even heard. Lisa Lou said Chris McDonough and Karen said it. How would they know? Did they hear it? Huh. I don't know if I agree with that. And I don't know if they would know that. Or how would they know that if nobody else saw it or heard it? Huh. No, we heard that he took her in the house. I heard he took her in the house. I heard at first he did just drop her off, but that was clarified where he took her in the house. Chris and Karen and Nancy Grace said Savannah asked not to talk about it. Why? I've never heard her say. I don't know. Kathy Lee Guilford. I don't know. Let's look up Kathy Lee Guilford real quick. Let me see. Well, there's an article about this, so I don't know. It says, watch March 22nd interview. Guthrie told her not to appear on any shows and discuss Nancy Guthrie's disappearance. Interesting. If they want me or need me, I'm here. Kathy Lee Guilford says. She sends support to Savannah Guthrie. And she urges prayers for Savannah. So she's been talking about it. So let's open the U.S. Weekly. Let's see what we got here. Let's we'll take a dovetail. We'll get back to Brian Enton here just a second. Let's see what this has to say since you guys are interested. Let's get this down just a little bit so we can see what we got going on here. Okay, here's the article from U.S. Weekly. And it says, Kathy Guilford asked for prayers in search for Savannah Guthrie's mom, Nancy, continues. And it says, Kathy Lee Guilford is sending her support to Savannah Guthrie in search of Nancy Guthrie for Nancy Guthrie continues, as the search for Nancy Guthrie continues. If you see the news coverage, just lift up a prayer for the family. Guilford 72 shares on Monday, March 9th episode of Outkick. Tommy Lahren is Fearless podcast. Who knows where their mom is? I just can't imagine the agony that they're going through. I pray every day and I text Savannah all the time. I don't want to take time out of her grief, mourning, anxiety. She needs everything to be with her family now. Gifford worked on Today's Show for 11 years, co-host the 4 hours of the morning alongside with Hoda. 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 4 hours of the More than a month after Nancy Guthrie, 84, was reported missing from Tucson, Arizona after not attending a virtual church service, Guilford is trying not to speak too much about the case. One thing Gifford is comfortable with sharing is her belief that encouragement is very much needed for Savannah, who she describes as a woman of faith who's praying like she's never prayed before. Just pray. The Nero and Paul author continued, "You don't need to get on your knees, just lift up his name. God hears it. I know what I think personally about it, and I am just praying I'm wrong." Last month, Savannah, 54, shared a new statement about her mother as FBI and Pima County Sheriff's Office continues to follow leads. In an Instagram video posted on February 24, Savannah revealed that the family renewed family's reward of $1 million. I'm not seeing anything where we heard that Savannah told her not to talk about it, and she is talking about it. So, and she says she talks to Savannah daily, or quite a bit. So this seems like Savannah's friend versus not a friend. We know that millions of you have been praying. She shares, so many people have been praying of every faith and no faith at all, praying for her return, and we feel those prayers. Please keep praying without ceasing. We still believe in a miracle. Although Savannah has been missing from her Today Show ever since her mom was reported missing, the NBC News journalist returned to her workplace on March 6th to thank the colleagues for their support. "I have every intention on coming back," she told coworkers. "I just don't know how to come back, but I don't know how not to. You're my family, and I will like to try." So she's trying to get herself cleaned up so she can go back. I came back to work a week after my late husband Frank passed away, but I was joyful when Frank died, not because he died, but the way he died and where he went, she explained. "I don't think I could. I don't know. I hope I never find out." So I don't know. I mean, I'm at the mercy of articles, and I think I'm at the mercy of articles just like everybody else is. So I don't know where the rumor came up where she asked Kathy not to discuss her mom. That's a little weird for me, especially with somebody that allegedly speaks to her often. That's interesting. Why are they telling Kathy not to discuss? I don't think they are. I think that might be rumored that just got picked up. I don't know. I personally don't know. I'm reading what I'm reading, and it doesn't sound like she was told. Maybe she just didn't want to have conversation about it. Not that she wanted her friend not to speak to others. Yeah, it might be. I think it might be a misunderstanding or something like that. I don't know. I personally don't know. I don't see how anybody else would know personally, but I digress. It is what it is. It sounds like she's speaking about it. It might also be that she talks and confides in Gifford so much that she's worried she might leak something and had asked her, please don't talk about it. Something like that seems to make more sense to me than her telling somebody not to talk about her mother or the case, especially when she wants all eyes on her mother's case. That just seems to be, I don't know. Savannah has the money and the power to search for forever, and she didn't investigate. I know. There's been a lot of people that have said something about this. I don't know what to say. Do they have investigators that are just not sharing with people, private eyes that are working around the clock on this? I mean, Chris Nanos was talking early on. He was having some condescending comments to say like, "Oh, Savannah's got her own team. She doesn't really care what I have to say." He made a comment like that, a public comment like that, about Savannah at one point. I heard it myself, something to that effect. Anyways, maybe not verbatim of what I said, but something to that effect, and it was just really condescending. So it does sound like she does have a team of people that are investigating and working this case. It just might be one of those things like the FBI. They're just not talking about it. They're not telling us any damn thing. And that may be, with Savannah being a past lawyer and prosecutor, she would know how to keep things very close to the chest, and she would also know how to do a proper investigation and how to lead an investigation, because she most likely had to. So that, I'm with you on not seeing her out there and stuff like that, but with her money ponying up $1 million, I can't imagine she's not doing anything. I'm sorry. She was very close to her mother. And just because we're not seeing what she's doing, we know the whole world's looking, one. But she's a very prominent figure. She's not going to be out there with a whole bunch of people that she doesn't know searching for her mother in the woods, being surrounded by vultures because she's so well known, So she's going to have to do stuff without her being a part of it, because she's so well known and recognized. You can't just go throw yourself out and it's dangerous, especially when you don't know why your mom's gone. Were the people after Savannah? I mean, we don't know. We really just don't. We'd like to know, but we don't.
Stuff would have gotten out.
Well, I think a lot of it has gotten out, but you say big details, and that's kind of a subjective term, what big means. But the purpose of withholding information on a case is so that the investigators, when they do have a person in custody, and let me take the example of this Uber driver, the guy that the FBI went and talked to. They have information that only the bad guy would know, or perhaps the family. And that has to be withheld, because if at some future point we discover who committed this crime, there are ways to interrogate that person and try and deem specifics that only that person would know.
So I understand withholding a lot of this information. I understand that. We respect that as content creators and journalists on this platform or out there in the wild. I think we all appreciate the integrity of any investigation. We know that that's somebody's life. We want them to have the best investigation possible, but that doesn't mean everything goes to the integrity of the investigation. The public has a right to be calmed down by their elected officials. They have a right to know what the hell is going on in their community that they pay for. And when all too many times when these things happen, law enforcement as well as our elected officials think we have no right to know a damn thing. I beg to differ. We pay for the investigations. We pay for everybody's salaries. We expect them to keep the integrity of the investigation intact and out of the public's light. But that doesn't give them a right to shut the public out completely. And that's exactly what happened in Sumner County. And the reason why they did that is because they screwed up the entire case and they don't want us to know. A boy was murdered and they didn't give a shit. And they still don't give a shit. All they're worried about is covering their own asses. And so they're going without arrests to cover their own mistakes. It is sick what is going on in Sumner County. Absolutely sick. And it's because they hired the wrong sheriff. Multiple times. I'm probably gonna start disparaging Sonny Weatherford in all of this, because he was the lead of this that got it all messed up to begin with.
Right. And then that adds credibility to that person's story. There are somebody in an interview with me one time called them clowns, and I think that's probably the perfect description. But there are individuals out there who purport to be the ones who did the crime.
And we talked
but they
about
don't
that.
have the level of detail that law enforcement is withholding, and it can be easily disproved that somebody's come forward and said something and it's not valid. And that's really the reason, the critical reason. And then of course you.
And we understand that. I think we've known in the true crime genre, I think we've known the reason why they withhold facts of the case. We know that. We talk about it regularly on here, but it doesn't dissolve them or resolve them to not say anything about a case. I'm sorry. I just refuse to accept that. I refuse to accept that. We have people here in Pima County that have balls and backbones, and then you have the flip side of Sumner County, where you got lap cats and pussycats, lap dogs and pussycats.
You've got, if and when this ever went to a court, you have to be able to prove what information that person has and what you know. DNA is a classic, serious piece of evidence
Delilah,
today. It didn't exist when I started out as a foot cop, but it does today. And that has expanded beyond just the actual DNA and somebody to compare it to. It's now gone beyond familial relationships and DNA databanks that have close enough information to steer investigators toward some narrower scope. I believe that they have that. I believe they have some DNA that it can't be compared to an individual because they don't have the individual, or that individual had never been arrested for a serious enough crime for the DNA to be in the database. But they've got something that might tie into family level and draw investigators toward singling out who may have done this.
So based on all your experience, and you mentioned, I mean, there are things that you don't know, there are things we don't know, but based on all your experience, what is your theory now? I mean, because I talked to you early on, is there one hypothesis you have based on the facts that we know?
Here's a couple of things, and I'm going to take us, if you don't mind, Brian, through the chronology of what happened and what we know. One of the first critical things we saw was blood on the porch, and I think your team reported that. Secondarily, the FBI gets involved, thank goodness, and we see that there was a video camera that did record an incident, a suspicious or a individual who covered his identity walked up. If you watch,
so we are talking about the front, the assailant, the porch guy.
That video carefully, you'll see him approach slowly and with his right shoulder toward the camera and his turning to his left with his head. That tells me he knew where the camera was. That tells me that perhaps this, and that's when I underscore the word sophistication, that this individual had that information in his mind when he walked up to that front porch.
And that's true. And that's true because we have realized. Dad burn it. I wish this. I'm hitting the wrong damn thing. Here, hold on a second. Why is this thing not coming down? Must need to go up. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to figure out why this is so small, but it's because I reduced the size for something else. There we go. So he's right. Because we now know that darker photo where the guy had no backpack and no firearm and nothing on him, it appears that was his casing of the joint on January 11th. Was he anticipating on picking or attacking her on January 11th, but realized he didn't have the tools necessary to do his job? And so he decided to come back weeks later with stuff? I mean, I just don't know. But there's something to be had about that. And I do believe he knew about the camera because he stood right in front of it once before and looked directly at it. So maybe that's why he was so... I still am in questioning this nonchalant behavior out that front door. Why was he so nonchalant out that front door on the night that he abducted her or murdered her or whatever he did with her?
He slumps forward, kind of buries his head into his left shoulder, walks towards the camera, slowly puts a glove up, turns around, picks up some brush, apparently, in the porch in front, and then puts it in front of the camera again, covering it with his glove and this brush. That's preparatory work.
Hey guys, I was in Arizona for almost a month and a half, and my eating habits, they were not great.
So that was predatory work.
Subscription purchase, make healthier eating easy.
Make healthier eating easy. If you guys would like Factor meals, go give some support with Int10 for 50% off.
With Factor.
And that really seriously indicates knowledge in advance of him walking up to that porch. People said, well, this could have been a random burglary attempt. People don't walk up to porches knowing where cameras are. They don't walk up to porches hiding their identity and taking the level of sophistication this guy took to cover himself up. He wore multiple pieces of, or multiple gloves on his hands.
So he's saying multiple gloves were used.
I think I can see that.
Multiple gloves were used. He used layers and layers and layers of clothing to keep his shedding and his DNA down.
There's some suggestion he had a jammer.
Which we now know most likely not true.
A radio frequency jammer in his pocket as he walks up. That,
again, we've kind of determined that that's not a possibility, but at the time of this recording, this guy, is bringing up the possibility. He's not saying it was. He just said, we learned that it's possible he has a jammer. We know that that's most likely not true.
That was highlighted at some point in the evidence. So my theory is as followed based on what I'm seeing. This was planned, and I believe it was planned not as a sole individual, but probably a couple of people.
Which, again, if we have a couple people involved, what did I tell you? I believe that this is an execution.
And she was abducted. She probably struggled and was some way, somehow injured in that process, and she was taken away. Now, here we are 7 weeks out. What's happened? Sadly, I believe, and I think the family is likely coming to this conclusion themselves, she's likely passed as a result of lack of medical care. We know that she needed specific drugs and she needed medical care to keep her health. And I can't imagine that an abductor or abductors had that ability. If they did, and if this was planned out to the extent I believe it was, where would they take her?
That is the question. Where would they take her? Where would they take her? If they took her over to the vacant house across the street, we would have known about it by now. Hopefully. I mean, we still are dealing with Chris Nanos. But either way, I feel like we would have known that by now. Which brings me back to another factor that I believe supports the fact that she was executed. Because I believe she was taken right out to the desert somewhere and disposed of. So, just my theories, not facts. Just theories. We don't have facts.
And there's some level of logic in my mind to go south, and I've mentioned this to you, Brian, before, into Mexico with the intent of having resources where they could hold her and then interacting with the family for ransom or whatever their gain was. I haven't heard anything from the investigators, from the sheriff's department or the FBI, that anyone went to all the border checkpoints that are adjacent to this county.
I will tell you, we did not hear them specifically state that they went to all the borders of entry into this county, but it was stated that they did, in fact, investigate this Mexico route multiple times, and it has fallen short. So I wanted to put that out there. Is it possible she could be in Mexico? Certainly, it's possible. But it sounds like they did check everything to confirm. The FBI, in my opinion, is thorough. They've been leading this investigation, whether Chris Nanos' name is on it or not. And I know if they reached out to the border, they're going to do that thoroughly. They're not going to reach out to one person and say, hey, do you have a 84-year-old white lady in your clutches there? We believe she might have went over there. No, you don't. Can you check around for me and give me a call back? Okay, great. FBI doesn't do that. FBI has assets and resources in Mexico as well. Okay? So if they want some intel, they can get some intel. Let's not mistake and let's not get it twisted. You're talking about the federal government here. Remember, we just went over to Venezuela and took the president out of his bed and brought him back to our country. We did just go over to Iran and just obliterate their entire government. So let's not forget who we are. We are the United States of America. I doubt that they only called one person and went to one location to confirm this.
And we're talking 100 miles worth. They're not, a lot of it's desert. But what would prevent an individual who had planned this out to the level that I think he did from going into Mexico and harboring her someplace in Mexico where theoretically they could deal with her medical issues? I believe that she passed somehow, that she died somehow while that plan may have been attempted. And I believe that negated their opportunity to get what they wanted from the family. A lot of us think it's money, and that very well may be. You know, I know that the family has come.
Okay, well, if that's the case, where was the ransom note in the first 24 hours? Why did it take like 24 or 48 hours to 72 hours, maybe even 96 hours before a ransom note was ever identified? If their only objective was money from the family, then the ransom note should have been the first thing that was released. And from everything that we learned, it was not. So that's what's negating this whole ransom theory for me. Just to put it into perspective.
Come up with over $1 million and put it out there that they would just like the return of Nancy. There's no specificity with, we want her alive. We just want her. And nobody has come forward.
And this is just a reminder. Somebody knows something. A mommy knows something. Your son's gone. You might as well get paid for it. You might as well live your life and provide your son's children, because we know he has children, a good life. Turn him in. A mommy knows her son did this. There is a mother out there that knows that her son did this. There is a friend out there that knows their friend did this. There is a girlfriend or a wife out there that knows that their husband or boyfriend did this. We're going to take him. We're going to take him and we're going to throw him in jail for the rest of his life and whoever was involved in it. I would suggest for you, baby mama, it's time for you to get hungry and get paid. You've got a lot to take care of while that piece of garbage is going to be sitting up and rotting in prison. So I don't know how twisted you are, but it's time for you to be a gold digger, because you got a pile of gold sitting right in front of you. All you got to do is pick up a phone and go collect that money. It's life-changing money. It's money that can get you and your children into a better life, better home, better car, and a better future. It's time for you to take that. It's time for you to pick that money up and take it. Somebody that's unconnected to this case, I don't care what he says to you. If you weren't out there with him, it doesn't matter what he's made you do, you've got no culpability. No matter how much he tries to mind F you thinking that you're the problem, that if you pick up this phone, whatever, if you had nothing to do with it, I don't care what he says. Get paid. Turn him in. He's not worth it. He's not worth it. Somebody knows that their significant other was missing all day on the 11th and was missing all day from the 31st into the 2nd. Somebody knows that their person came back all messed up. Somebody knows that somebody's behavior was different. That somebody was missing and then coming back acting strange. Nobody's going to convince me otherwise, because no matter how seasoned a person is, doing something like this, you're never going to be right from. There's going to be obvious effects of an individual, unless you're a complete psychopath, which we do have complete psychopaths out there, but very few that are willing to, they're willing to kill people, but believe it or not, we have more psychopaths than we do murderers. So just because you're a psychopath and you're diagnosed as a psychopath doesn't mean you're a violent psychopath. As crazy as that sounds, we've got a lot of psychopaths. Clinical psychopaths. And not all of them murder people.
And taking advantage of that, except for perhaps a clown or two. And we've seen that happen.
Yep.
So my theory is that she's passed. My theory is that they have nothing, they being the perpetrators, really have nothing with which to bargain any further. And what they may have done with her, I don't know.
Savannah made clear, though, a couple times that they were willing to pay for her return, even not alive. It
right.
Like, But I guess if your theory is right, maybe these people are thinking it's too risky, because now you're dealing with a murder, right?
Well, yes, certainly, there's a felony murder
homicide.
rule in the state of Arizona. And even if she died for medical reasons, you caused the circumstances, and it's very likely that it would be adjudicated as a murder. So, yeah, I mean, if they're as sophisticated as I think they are, or he is, that thought has to have crossed the bad guy's mind. What do I do now? We don't have anything to negotiate with. And apparently it seems to me, the logical conclusion of this. Will we discover? I don't know. That DNA is going to be critical. Right now, I know the sheriff's department has trimmed down the investigative team, and I think they're down to 15 or 20 individuals, perhaps with some help from other agencies and the FBI. There have been thousands of tips that were called in to both the FBI and the sheriff's department. And there's some conjecture out there that this is a cold case now. I don't believe that in the.
Remember we were talking about that? Somebody said it's a cold case, and I stopped. I'm like, no, it's not. They got way too many leads. They had 30 to 50,000 leads called in. They've got to go through all of those leads. So you're looking to get through all of those leads. We're already out 2, maybe 3 years before this case goes cold, maybe even longer than that with the amount of leads that came in. Now, they have to prioritize those leads and put the ones that they think would be more reasonable at the top and then work down, but they still have to go through all of those leads. If all of those strong leads at the top don't pan out, they still have to keep working themselves down. So I don't see this theoretically being a cold case for years with the level of leads that they received at the very beginning. Now, there's a lot of leads that are probably going to be duplicated leads. You can clear all of those all at once. There might be 100 leads that came in with the same exact information, and all 100 leads can be cleared all at once. So I do agree with this guy here that we're far, far away from this case being theoretically classified as a cold case. But it still doesn't feel comfortable, as we don't have answers, as we have a sheriff that deceived his entire community and has thrown monkey wrench after monkey wrench in a case of an 84-year-old grandmother that was ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night, and just delays, and excuses, no regrets, but has no problem shaming the public for questioning him. It's just, it's unnerving.
At least, I think as long as there's any evidence that is yet to be determined, the case is active and alive. If they've got thousands and thousands of leads, they have to prioritize those, of course, and then they have to vet each one, and that takes time. You never know when you're going to discover somebody's tip that may appear benign initially, but in fact had some information in it that leads you in the direction that you need to go. And as long as that exists, this is not a cold case. It's an active case.
I thought it was interesting in Savannah's latest, or in the Guthrie family statement, they said something along the lines of, it's someone in Tucson who's going to help solve this.
Right.
And when I was on the ground for 42 days, the sense that I got from people that I met and sources was, the feeling was, it's a local who's involved.
And it brings me back to Luke Daly. I feel like that the FBI, there's a reason why the FBI had a FBI search warrant for him. I think he fits more so than any other individual so far. Now, again, not saying he's done it, but we have an assailant with a hurt right hand. We found out that he hurt his right hand in a wreck that happened before this attack on Nancy Guthrie. We also found out his arms are covered in tattoos, and he changed his appearance after the search warrant. He shaved off all his facial hair. When he went to a meeting to give his interview, he wore unnatural and very, very thick clothing to hide his body. So he changed his appearance and tried to cover up his tattoos. That, to me, those behaviors are signs of guilt, in my opinion. And then you have his mother lying about whether she ever met the Guthries or even knew that they lived in her neighborhood. And she tries to say she had no clue, but her attorney comes out and says, oh yeah, she ran into them at the grocery store, was she knew that they lived in the community, just was unfamiliar where. So it really did kind of give us this appearance of distancing. And we never like to see the distancing of individuals, people misrepresenting information to put further distance between you and a victim. It doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel right. And I started identifying that in Mary when she gave her portion of the interview. And I didn't identify it right away. It wasn't until we heard from her attorney, or Luke's attorney rather, that I realized. But I did catch her in several lies, or what perceived to me to be several lies. Oh, thank you, Sorta Morta. Sorta Morta gifted a Bullhorn Betty membership. And Rue, you got the membership, so congratulations. Because I'm a love machine. Welcome to this crazy family we call the Coffee Club, i.e. the Insane Asylum. Grab your straitjacket and your padded room and welcome aboard.
I'm sorry. Sometimes I forget how horrible you all are at your jobs. You're all horrible! Sorry. I mean, you are horrible, but I shouldn't have said it so loud.
Bob's Burgers, baby. Never fails. Never fails. Okay. So, getting to Luke, it seems like there was deception there. And then we find out that he buys his Range Rover after. So he totals his car before her and buys the Range Rover after. What was he driving in between that? Because usually, insurance companies rent vehicles for you. And they give you a rental while you wait for them to assess your vehicle. And they're either going to fix your vehicle or they're going to total your vehicle. His vehicle was totaled. So as soon as they come out and hand you a check for your totaled vehicle, they take the rental car back. So I believe that's what happened here. He got the Range Rover, but what was he driving? What rental car did he have, or was he driving his mommy's car? And if he was driving his mommy's car, what car does she drive? Because I would like to know. That looked like a newer model car out in front of the house that was behind the assailant. Could it be a rental car? You bet your ass it could have been a rental car. That might be why our problems are, why we can't seem to locate the vehicle. Because the vehicle went back to the dealership or back to the rental car when he went to go buy the Range Rover. Just a little food for thought. I don't know. I don't know if it's him or not. We just have a hurt right hand. We've got a guy that has a bunch of tattoos up and down his arms, which that's what we're looking for. And we're looking for somebody that has problems. This guy is a drug addict. He's been in prison before. That was what told me that his mommy was lying. She's like, I don't know why law enforcement would come here. And she also made the statement of, yeah, we had news people show up even though they didn't have cameras, and I just didn't answer the door. Honey, those were not news people. Those were investigators. You were ignoring. You were intentionally and willfully ignoring investigators knocking on your door. So, Luke Daly is still a prime person for me. He's not coming off the list. I'd like some explanations. I have a lot of questions. And the only time I'm putting him back on the shelf is when Chris Nanos or the FBI says he's cleared. That's it. Or somebody's arrested instead of him.
Do you sense that? I mean, what are your thoughts?
Well, I really haven't given that much consideration. And I feel kind of neutral on whether it's a local or perhaps somebody else who came in to purposefully attack the Guthrie family by way of Nancy. What steers me ever so slightly towards the fact that it may not
Thank
been
you,
a
Lisa.
local is a couple of things. The level of sophistication, as I've said several times, that began. The obvious signs by the investigative leads that they are looking at different perspectives of different time frames of different cameras. You may recall there was a a vehicle fleeing the location, but it wasn't exactly the night of the abduction that they looked at. So the investigators have some information lending itself to other time frames other than the night of the abduction.
Okay, so you guys are getting that. I don't really want to go over that. That's not really the purpose of this. Let me find the area that I want to go through, and it's more in lines with Chris Nanos, not the not this. So let me get to that part because we're starting to run out of time. We're already at 3 hours, and I want to get to the point that I'm making. Where's my transcript? Good gracious. There we go. And we're going to go over here, and we're going to put Nanos. Why are you not showing? I know this has Chris. Good gracious. Okay, give me just a second. Let me refresh this because it's not doing anything with the transcript. I don't know why it's not doing anything with the transcript. It's not
there was a vehicle.
Let's try this again. Thank you. For flip's sake. We get something that... It's not even showing me how many we've got. I don't even know what is going on with this transcript. Usually when I do a control... Oh, you know what? Let me do a control find instead of search the transcript. There we go. And let's do Chris. There we go. So it'll start. A lot of people know I was reading a story today where Chris said the former sheriff wanted to be the new sheriff. Okay, I think this is where it starts going into it. Where are we here? I think this is where I want to be. Yeah, I think this is where I want to be.
Well, here's what happened, and a lot of people don't know this. And I was reading a story today where Chris said the former sheriff wanted him to be the new sheriff. I'm the one who went to the former sheriff and said, "This is your guy." Not that I'm trying to take credit for it. As a matter of fact, I regret doing that.
Wow.
I regret it because it has made the organization that I came from, that I grew up in, that I was so proud of, much less capable.
So you liked him, though, obviously.
I did.
Yeah.
I did. And as I told you, some weeks ago, at the time that the former sheriff asked me to run, my dad had Alzheimer's, my mom had COPD, or she was actually in hospice care. So I was kind of raising my parents, as many of us of my age do, and I couldn't do it. So Chris was and I remember the former sheriff saying this, "I don't care for him." That's exactly his words. I don't want him to take over the organization that former sheriff developed.
Hey, Ariz, it's nice to see you. Ginger,
Chris
good
will
morning.
tell you to his face and probably call me a liar, but he wasn't the first choice. And it's egocentric for me to say it, but it's the truth. I was, and I couldn't, and I don't. I regret the fact that I supported him because there are other people within the organization that could have, and I believe would be more fair-handed in the way they deal with others in their own team.
So you supported him, he won, and then you went from being his boss to becoming his number two.
Yeah, what happened is when he won the election, he and I had lunch, and I helped him during his campaign, both financially and physically during his campaign. And we went to lunch and he says, "Look, I won, the election's over with. I'd like you to come and be my chief deputy." That's what it's called here. I was flattered. And I agreed to do that. I don't know if I told you this, and I don't know if I can say this 4-letter word I'm about to say on this podcast for you, but day one, when we're all sitting around the table, when Chris Nanos is the sheriff, he said, I am going to micromanage the shit out of you guys. That was the exact quote. And I was stunned that he laid a foundation that he wouldn't allow anybody else to control things. Now we're years later, and that's the way he runs things. He second guesses everyone. He doesn't give them any autonomy.
Wow.
He won't take other opinions.
And that's what happened in the Nancy Guthrie case.
Way. And we saw that happen in this particular case with the FBI. He's held a grudge, and I use the word, he has great disdain for them. And that's just his style, which is
he's a bully.
Not right for this community. As you probably know, there's a recall effort afoot in Pima County. And that's a very difficult thing to make happen because there needs to be about 120,000 signatures just to get something like that on the ballot. And then it goes to the voters and they decide if they're going to keep him or not. Given the history and given the clarity of what's come to light as of late, especially with his past in El Paso, I'll tell you something, Brian, and I was asked this not too long ago. Had his past been known in 1984 when he came to hire for the Pima County Sheriff's Department, he would have been disqualified based on his past in El Paso.
So that means he would have never been a sheriff. Period. He lied and deceived people for 40 years. And the 40 years of deception ended with a woman losing her life under his leadership.
8 suspensions and disciplinary issues far beyond anybody that I know. It would not been survivable for him to be an employee. It was overlooked, or the resources weren't available to look into it. And
it's something because so he just going back a little bit, he asked you to be his chief deputy.
Yes.
And I think you told me you guys were friends for a while. I mean, didn't you guys like go on vacation together? You know, why
we did.
And all of that.
Yes. This was when he worked for me.
Okay. So what changed after you became his chief to where you know, was there one thing that happened?
I think the turning point, there was an incident, and I'll share it with you. I had a training request for $250 from some correction staff to do a video training interface. And I approved it. But the person who was coordinating that training, was one of the instructors, was a person that the sheriff did not like. He overruled me for $250 to the compromise of potential training for these corrections officers. That's ridiculous. That is holding a grudge to the point. That was the impetus for me really coming to the understanding that this sheriff was not a person that was reasonable, that was objective.
He was acting very vindictively. How the hell do we have a sheriff that's acting vindictively? Who does vindictiveness cost when you're a sheriff? Your public, your staff, the morale, the creation of what we're dealing with right now. Chris Nanos.
His approach, he does things based on his emotions, and he does things based on his ego. And that's not the right way to do it. We tell cops and police cars, if you interject your emotions in your dealing with an individual that you may write a ticket to or you may be arresting, you're failing. Don't do that. Be fair-minded. Be objective. It's hard not to, because you get PO'd when people do some things to you. So it's hard not to. But this guy does that. He dictates, he demands loyalty, and he makes decisions based on emotional aspects of himself.
Not good. Not good. Let me know what you think about this topic of conversation about Chris Nanos. Let me know in the comments below. If you are on the replay crew, guys, don't forget to hype this show. All the people, 412 people that are in this channel right now, when this channel closes out, go out, put a comment there, and hype this show. We've covered a lot going over this show. We covered the community failing, Chris Nanos failing the community, and the community standing up and taking their control back, hitting the county commission, taking votes of no confidence, working on recalls to get this basket case out of office, and really just exposing all of the deep-seated secrets that have been behind those law enforcement walls that everybody has been dealing with for years under Chris Nanos' leadership. It's finally caught up with him. In addition to that, we have the blood droplets coming from the house and what we perceive happened that fateful early morning hour when the intruder, the masked gunman, entered Nancy Guthrie's home. So please go back and watch that at the beginning of the show. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed it. The best way you can tell me that you got some good information from this show is by hitting those thumbs up button. Don't forget to subscribe so you can communicate with us in chat. Thank you again for all being here. We will be back later this afternoon to go over more details of the Nancy Guthrie case, as well as additional updates on other cases we've been covering. So please stay tuned. Thank you, and God bless.